accidents are terrifying experiences. You're hurt, and you need someone on your side who understands. Call the Advocates. They have over 20 years experience with accident cases and have recovered settlements for hundreds of other motorcyclists. They can handle the medical bills and deal with the insurance company so you can focus on recovering and getting back on your bike. The Advocates are my motorcycle attorneys.
You deserve clear, risk-free advice to help get you back on your feet. You deserve an advocate.
This is The Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find The Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, The Monty Show. Monday, September 23rd, 2024. As always, we are presented to you by The Advocates, the best injury attorneys in the business, theadvocates.com, where you never pay out of pocket to get solid, risk-free legal advice that's clear, it's concise. And the best part about The Advocates is they understand the situation you're in. When you're calling an injury attorney, it's probably the worst day of your life. That's why they're going to take that all off your plate. You're getting peace of mind because you're working with the elites of the elites at The Advocates. Chaplain injury attorney, 24/7, 365. And it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. My God, maybe Oak State should call The Advocates because that was a beatdown. And, you know, we don't like to open the show or ever on this show talk about our own greatness.
Right. We would never do that.
I mean,
that's not us.
You know, we are your humble sports presenters who are just here so we don't get fined.
Right.
And instead today we're forced to talk about my singular greatness.
Right.
I had a pretty good weekend.
I
had a pretty good weekend picking them football games. Obviously, what happened in Stillwater and what happened with Oak State and Utah, was it surprising? Not even in the least bit. I think this game was very indicative of who Utah is and who Utah State is, or who Oak State is not, excuse me. I think when you look at Oklahoma State, the offense is inept. And we've talked about this, I feel like, on a week-in, week-out basis to start the season here, that Alan Bowman, frankly, is an average-ass quarterback, as we have referred to him as. He's a guy who is not special. He is not unique. And we saw now that he had to go up against an elite defense, who, again, I point out was missing a guy like Karene Reed, who's arguably their best linebacker, and Alan Bowman still could not perform until the last two drives of the ball game. It was a remarkable performance on the road in a conference game that I think we all actually expected out of this Utah defense. And we've sat on this show and preached for several weeks that Kyle Whittingham is the most underrated coach in the country, that Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley, the defensive coordinator at Utah, have one of the best defenses in the country. And I think that was on display for everybody to see. And for me, yes, we can sit here and we can chew on the inadequacies of Mike Gundy and his football team at Oak State. But what you saw Saturday, again, without Cam Rising, who we have to talk about in a moment, again, without your best performers on defense, Jake, I think it was nothing short of a virtuoso performance out of Kyle Whittingham and his coaching staff.
Yeah, and I think we're getting to a point now where it no longer becomes surprising when Kyle Whittingham goes on the road and wins a ball game with his defense. I mean, this is something that's been going on for years. I mean, the people who don't pay attention to Utah won't have known this, but this is hardly the first time we've seen Whit go on the road and win a ball game with his defense. And I think, you know, the crazy part is that this Utah team is obviously going through, you know, some injury issues with Cam, and the offense maybe isn't 100% of where you would like it to be. But I still feel like, for Kyle Whittingham's purposes, his offense and defense were both pretty good. And I think that, you know, even with Isaac, you know, being a freshman and dealing with some of those things, you know, this team was prepared for the moment. And that's the thing that really stands out to me in this game. Sure, the defense for Utah lived up to it, you know, was everything that you would have expected them to be. But what standed out to me so much in this game is there was never a time when Utah was shook. There was never a time when you felt like, oh man, they got Utah on the ropes here. Like, no, it wasn't like that. And there were multiple opportunities for Oklahoma State to score on Utah with short fields. Like, the defense had to deal with things. And it just never felt like Utah was out of control or lost composure. And for me, I think that if you're Oklahoma State, you should be disappointed. I mean, this is you're now having to sit here and stomach the fact that you lost at home to a team without their number one quarterback and without their defense at 100%. If I said that to you, if we take the Utah piece out and I just said that to you, you would be really upset. And that's why I say this game wasn't the absolute best version that we could have gotten out of this, because no Cam Rising, Bowman was pretty average.
Ollie Gordon didn't play.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon decided to put pads on, but just didn't show up. This game could have been a lot more, but I felt like we saw everything we needed to see. And frankly, I'm more than happy to say this game validated exactly what we said last week and on Friday.
Yeah, I think it is shocking that Mike Gundy has no answer for why they don't run the football more. And I think we saw Ollie Gordon wasting away. And I truly don't understand it. And after the game, Mike Gundy didn't have an answer as to why they didn't run the ball more.
When things happen in a game, we kept running it, and the crowd was frustrated, and they were booing. But, which, I understand. But we didn't get away from it. But the reason we didn't is because it was still, for a long time, a one-score game. And then it was only a 10-point game or something? So you can't get away from it, which we didn't, okay? And the reason it felt like we did, because we didn't have very many plays. We had 59 plays. So that's like 25 plays less, or 30 plays less. So that's why it looked that way. We didn't abandon it. And it was, we had a 4th and 2, I think, on the 50. And we didn't go for it. You know why we didn't go for it? We hadn't got a first down the whole game. What makes you think we can convert 4th and 2 on the 50? It was still a one-score game. So I make those decisions, and I said, guys, we haven't gotten anything, and it's almost halftime or third quarter, whatever it was. Let's punt it. It's only a one-score game.
I completely disagree with that. I think you never committed to the run. I think you tried to throw the ball all over the field because Alan Bowman had success in the previous weeks, and that's because you were playing Tulsa. And then a real defense at Utah showed up in Stillwater, and you forgot Ollie Gordon's name, who, again, I'm not sure that he played this week. I could be wrong. I need to go back and check the tape. I'm not sure Ollie Gordon was on the field.
Right, just a non-factor.
Because it an absolute non-factor. And then, again, you pull Alan Bowman, and I like this answer out of Mike Gundy as to why you pulled Alan Bowman. If you're an Oak State fan, this should be, you should be angry, you should be frustrated, disappointment, and you absolutely should feel confused about Coach explaining why he pulled Alan Bowman.
What led you to pull the trigger and go with Garrett and start the third?
Sometimes we don't do it a lot here, but sometimes you gotta get a guy out and calm him down a little bit. But I don't have that answer. Things move so fast during the game that it's hard to get that part of it. But I just felt like that we weren't getting good play, and we needed a relief pitcher. You get somebody else in there, and Garrett had a tough day, so we switched back. But as I said, we haven't done that a lot here, but sometimes you got to just kind of get a guy out and clear your mind a little bit.
So wait, Garrett had a tough day, so we switched back. That is a non-answer answer. Alan Bowman is a 7th-year senior. You really need to get him out to calm him down, but you didn't get him out to calm him down. You only put him back in because Garrett Rangel had a tough day.
It somehow got worse after you took Bowman out.
I'm amazed at the lack of accountability for Mike Gundy in Stillwater. I'm amazed by it, and I think the coup de grace of Mike Gundy's post-game comments is absolutely disrespecting Utah and the talent that's on that roster.
I think that they're pretty good on defense. They just play better than what you think they should. You know what I'm saying? It's like they have a good culture. They do a good job. Their coaches are good. And, sometimes y'all been to our games when we played, like, teams that are really, like, talented. Like you watch them, you're like, wow, those guys are freaking. And then, so the way they play, first time we played them, the way they play, they don't take your breath away. They just play really good. I mean, and that's what they did.
I mean, that is.
But how do you? So
that's ridiculous.
My problem with that is like, okay, you and Witt have been doing this for decades together, right? I mean, you're basically on the same trajectory. Records, are somewhat similar. Same amount of games coached. Like, who this team is. Like, if I said to Mike Gundy, hey, when you hear Utah football, like, what do you think? Well, I think defensive first, probably a power running game. And on the good years, they've got a quarterback that can throw it around the field. It's not that hard to understand it. And it's cute during the week when you want to fix the Pepsi cooler and, you want to joke around with the media, like all those antics, like that's all fun and games and everything. And that's cool. But then when you get to the post game and you haven't won the ball game, you need to say, hey, they ran it down our throats repeatedly. Like, if you don't know who Mekhi Bernard is, you do now, right? Like, he shook you. He ran all over you. He dominated your defense. And you want to sit here and say that they should play better than you think they would? So is that to say, so do you mean that because Cam was out, you thought that they were somehow not going to play well in other areas of the game? Like, that's what I don't understand when it comes to Mike. I don't think that Mike is a bad guy. I'm not trying to make it personal, but I just wish the guy would say, like, yeah, like, they ran on us big time. I don't know what the total number of yards Utah had on the ground was, but it was several hundred. And when we give up that much run, we're not going to be in a good spot to win the ball game. And that's exactly what happened.
I think it is time for change at Stillwater. And I've been talking about this since last year. And I will just continue to say, as long as Mike Gundy is the head coach at Oak State, there is a glass ceiling in place, because you gave up 249 yards on the ground, and your excuse was they play better than you think they should about Utah. It's embarrassing, and it's not championship caliber football. And now you got to go to Manhattan, Kansas this week, and you got to find a way to figure out how to beat K-State, who's reeling from a loss at BYU. Yet there's no accountability. The coach doesn't take accountability for just terrible offense. I mean, the offensive game plan, if there is one, and I'm not convinced there was one, if there is an offensive game plan in Stillwater, I have no idea what you were looking at, and I have no idea if you have ever seen Utah play football, because I have no idea what you were doing. You should have run the football. You had a guy coming into the season that was a Heisman Trophy candidate, Nolly Gordon, and you chose just not to give him the football, which is remarkable to me. And then when you make a quarterback change, you talk out of both sides of your mouth and you say, well, we just needed to give Alan Bowman a minute to collect himself. The seventh-year senior, Alan Bowman. But then you go on to say, well, we had to make another change because Garrett had a tough day. Garrett didn't have a tough day. Your offensive coordinator had a tough day, and you're just not that good of a football team. You're not nearly on par with Utah, which we've been talking about since last year when Utah accepted a bid to join the Big 12. And now when they came to your house and smacked you in the mouth, you don't talk about yourselves. You don't talk about the poor coaching job that was done. You don't talk about the ill-prepared players who got absolutely crushed by Utah. You talk about how Utah players just don't look like they should be that good. So then what you are saying is you didn't believe that they were as good as they were, and you didn't prepare as well as you should have. Mike Gundy, not only is he an embarrassment for advocating for and then supporting Ollie Gordon getting a DUI and then going on a dais saying he's done that thousands of times, he's just not that good of a football coach anymore. And until the people in Stillwater, Oklahoma understand that, this is who Oklahoma State is, and this is who they're going to be. And I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah, and I think that, the reaction after the game on Twitter was, oh, like, man, great. Like Oklahoma State fan was like, hey, like Utah is really good. Like they beat us. Like, like I didn't even feel like Utah or Oklahoma State fan was like trying to sugarcoat it. I felt like, you guys were being pretty honest about it. And frankly, I was kind of expecting that same sentiment out of Gundy. I honestly thought we were going to get a press conference from Gundy that was, way less like joking and much more just like, yeah, they kicked our ass.
Yeah, we did not show up today.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in the effort of my players.
Yeah, right.
Really surprised. Like I thought when he got into that presser, he was going to say, I'm disappointed in the way that our guys performed.
This is one of the biggest games on our schedule, and we just simply didn't get the job done.
That's a really good football team on the other side there, and we just weren't prepared to play. That's on me. That's on our coaches.
Yeah.
I thought that's where he would go.
And if that was what had taken place, I would have said, you know what? Totally respect you, Mike. You know what? You're being accountable. You're owning it. Like I don't love the fact that you just got your ass beat at home. And I'm sure in the comment section, Oklahoma State's fans saying, well, we only lost by 3 points or whatever it wound up being. Yeah, that might be true. And Oklahoma State fan was DMing me saying, oh, hey, we're coming back. Dude, you were only coming back late in that game because they were playing way off. They were letting you throw the ball down the field.
Throwing the ball in run situations. Let's be honest. The last touchdown you got should never have happened. But hey, it is what it is. My point is, this is who Oak State football is now, and there's no way to get away from it. I don't want to hear any more about Alan Bowman's a better quarterback or on the same level as Cam Rising. Cam Rising didn't play in this game, and Utah still beat you down. Alan Bowman's not that guy. He's an average-ass quarterback. Garrett Rangel's not that guy. He's not prepared to be a quarterback. Now, on the other side of that, look at what you got out of Utah. Mekhi Bernard, who is, I don't think, clearly their best running back at Utah. I think Mekhi Bernard had an awesome day. And the bottom line is you showed up in Stillwater without your number one quarterback in Cam Rising. You have a true freshman playing quarterback through 2 picks, had several big runs, had several big throws, the touchdown to Keithy that sealed it. You had a quarterback that's a true freshman with every excuse to fold on the road, who didn't fold, he stood up. You had a running back in Mekhi Bernard who stood up. You had a defensive front who stood up and absolutely dominated the Oak State offense. I thought I don't think that Utah had a coming out party in Stillwater because we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
This was truly the day where you figured out Utah's the best team in the Big 12. And for how long on this show have we been talking about the fact the Big 12 doesn't have a flagship brand or a behemoth of a football program?
Mm-hmm.
And they do now, and it's the Utah Utes.
And by the way, examples of Kyle Whittingham and that offensive group, being really prepared for what they thought they'd be going up against was the Brant Keithy red zone, jumbo package to run it into the end zone. Like when I saw that, I immediately felt like, you know what? Like you understood that, hey, like in my opinion, this isn't factual. My opinion is that they knew the whole time Cam Rising wasn't going to play. That's my opinion. I think they positioned it as, hey, he's a game time decision, right? Like if you guys were following Twitter, you saw the reporting that came out like, hey, Cam's warming up with a glove on. He's going to try. And then it didn't work out. And Isaac was like, okay, so that tells me you were pretty much ready for the fact that Cam wasn't going to start. You had all this stuff prepared and ready to go. And I think it's why Bernard had such a big day. I mean, clearly Bernard embraced the moment and knew that he had to have a signature performance. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I also think we need to talk about Cam Rising.
We do.
Because we found out Friday night he was not going to play. Or that there was a belief he was not going to play. And I think I texted Jake somewhere around 8 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the fact that he just was not. Cam Rising has swelling in that hand that does not allow him to grip the football. And at some point, he's got to get on the field for 6, 8, 10 weeks in a row. The problem is that opportunity is now fading quickly. And let's make something very clear. If Cam Rising is able to play quarterback, he's the starting quarterback at Utah. A lot of Utah fans over the weekend in my Twitter X mentions talking about how this is Isaac Wilson's team now. No, it's not. This is Cam Rising's team. But at some point, Cam Rising's got to show his teammates he can get on the field for 8-10 weeks in a row, lead them through the season, take them to the Big 12 championship game and into the college football playoff.
Right.
And he's not been able to do that for 3 calendar years now. And you're on your last hurrah here. At some point, if you're going to make a stand as the elite QB that I think Cam Rising is, because when he's healthy, he may not be Shedeur Sanders, but he's not that far behind Shedeur. I think he is far and away one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He's in that upper cut of guys. And at some point, Cam Rising has to get on the field.
Yeah, and it was disappointing. To me, it was really disappointing for him not to be able to play in this game. I said a lot last week, even the Utah State, game for Utah. Hey, my opinion was Cam was only missing that game because they didn't really need him, that they were just that much better and they could easily, very clearly beat Utah State without Cam Rising. And I felt like he was just resting it, but clearly it is a lot more than that. And it's really disappointing because I feel like, playing through pain is one thing as a football player, but swelling is another thing. It's hard to manage swelling. Yeah. It's hard to, it's hard to say to a guy, hey, let's get that swelling down. Well, I'm doing everything I can. I guarantee you Cam Rising was, icing, heating, working his hand, doing everything possible. But I think that ultimately, if we look back as to why he's in this situation, I think that Cam needs to start being a little more careful when he's running. You have to understand that if there's an opportunity to take a shot on you, people are going to take a shot on you.
But am I the only one who thinks, and we saw this 3-4 times this weekend, why is the sideline so packed?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why is equipment so close to the playing surface? Cam Rising, yes, it was a cheap shot. It was a dirty play against Baylor that he got injured on. But why is the Gatorade complex so close? Because if you don't remember the play, Cam Rising crashed into the Gatorade table. And it's a table with Gatorade on top of it and multiple coolers below it. And he gashed his hand on that Gatorade complex.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
That's less than 5 yards off the playing surface. And so I don't understand that. But the bottom line is, Cam Rising now is a major issue for Utah football. Because it's all anybody's waiting for. Is he going to play against Arizona? Finally back at Rice-Eccles. Is Cam Rising going to play against Arizona? I don't know. And frankly, I just don't think it's an issue anymore. If Cam Rising can't play, Isaac Wilson is ready. He went to Stillwater, which is still a great home field advantage. He went to Stillwater, and he performed more than capably. I could make the argument, those 3 plays, the 2 big runs, that play where he ran over a linebacker, the play where he had that big run down the sideline, and then the throw to Brant Keithy, those are the 3 biggest plays of that game.
Yeah. And probably the 3 biggest plays of his career thus far.
Easily.
Yeah.
And he showed that he's up to the moment. And I think if I'm Utah, I love Cam Rising. The guy has given his entire body to this football program. But if you can't go, we need to stop talking about you. Let me know when Cam Rising's ready to play, and Utah will have a job for him.
Yeah.
But until then, throw everything you've got into Isaac Wilson and get that kid as tuned as you can, because Arizona's not going to be a cakewalk. I actually think it's a trap game, even though it's at Rice-Eccles. I think, and we'll get into that as the week goes on, I think that's a trap game.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing on Isaac is the arm talent is something to be really excited about. I mean, the kid clearly doesn't have a lot of fear of taking shots, and I think that's the big thing for Utah. It's been, how many years have we been talking about, hey, great running back room, awesome defense, nobody at quarterback. And then Cam comes in, kind of takes the throne, does some great things, but now the injuries are catching up to him. But now Witt's shown an ability to backfill that a little bit. And I think that, obviously Isaac is young, but and he threw those 2 interceptions, but I felt like he bounced back from those quickly and was fine. And I think it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I agree. First one in today, Zach Sloter for $5. Well, Marty, Utah isn't the most physically talented team, right? Well,
They just play better than you thought.
Gundy said it, so it must be true. Upper decks all the way, bro.
Yeah, I mean, they just play better than you thought they would have.
Yeah, Eric Wasikowski, a member for 9 months. Go Blue. We will talk about
USC.
We'll talk about USC. Eric in Raleigh, is Cam Rising lost his job? He's not. When he's ready to go and he's physically ready to go, he'll be the starting quarterback. His hand is worse than they let on. I can tell you from what I've heard and what I've been told. And again, not that you care, but I texted Jake on Friday night. Looks like Cam Rising is going to be a game time decision. And there's a chance he's not going to play because he's got swelling in the two middle fingers on his throwing hand. He had a gash of some variety when he got shoved from behind. And you can see it on the tape. Like he essentially punched the Gatorade coolers when he was thrown into them.
Yeah.
There is, from what I've been told, there's no structural damage in there. There's no broken bones. There's none of that. He's got significant swelling from a gash. The swelling is significantly better, but it is still to the point where he is not able to grip the football.
Yeah, not good enough.
And he is dealing with a lot of discomfort and pain. And I think it's simply going to take time. It is simply going to take time. Boyd Lake, if it's just swelling, that's a lot of swelling. I think it's more than that. I don't think it's more than that. Because if the only other thing that it could be are broken bones. He would not be throwing a football with broken bones in his hand or fingers.
Yeah, what was the reporting? Remember the reporting day of, before the game, in pregame when he was trying to get loose to see if he could play. The reporting was, hey, he can throw the football, but it's floating on him. He can't
drive
he cannot
drive the football off his hand.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
Yeah.
So it's not I don't think it's more than that. I truly don't think it's more than that. Cowpoke Ranch, $10. Our performance was terrible from play to coaching, but I will credit to those Utah receiving corps. They were jumping 6 feet in the air and circus acrobats to catch some of those balls.
Dude, I agree with that. Some of those catches were sensational.
But I Oak State fan, you need to get down and you need to understand it's time for a change in Stillwater.
Yeah.
If you are an Oak State fan this morning, I would really encourage you to critically think about how far can this program go with Mike Gundy as the head coach. Because it's not to a national championship.
And think about the time you're in college football. How important is winning now as it relates to 10 years ago? I mean, winning now, like getting to the college football playoff now, is as important as it's ever been. And to me, I just feel like there's the level, like the culture or like the level of accountability inside the program itself. I'm not even talking about the media or anybody else externally. In the program itself, it's very clear that there's not like this higher level of like, hey, this isn't good enough. Like we're at home. Utah doesn't have their starting quarterback and they're missing their best linebacker and we can't beat them. And for all the Oklahoma State fans today saying, well, we were only down by 3 at the half and we only lost by 3. You didn't kick our ass. Well, I got news for you. You were down by 17 at one point, I think it was.
I don't believe that Oklahoma State was ever in position to win that game.
Yeah.
It only got close at the end because of terrible clock management out of a freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
Other than that, you were not in that game. And I think that once you turned around and hand the ball off and Mekhi Bernard gets that backbreaking first down, that game was over the minute Brant Keithy walked into the end zone.
Yeah.
That game was over. As plain and simply as I can put it. D's Nuts for $10. Kind of ironic how everyone downplayed Utah, saying the Big 12 would be too physical for them. Real question now, is the Big 12 ready for Utah's physicality? Love the show. Go Utes.
And to your point, like this is 2 weeks in a row where Utah is absolutely road graded a team. Like you dominated Baylor on the ground, bro. Like that
with
wasn't
an
even
average
close.
offensive line.
Yeah. Like, come on.
Because Utah's offensive line, while improving, their offensive line is not great. Let's again, I am a big believer in truth telling on performance. Utah won this game because that Utah defense is elite. And Isaac Wilson made the throws and the runs he had to make. But that Utah offensive line has got to improve and continue to improve.
I do think in the running concepts, they're pretty good. Like, they're in the spot they should be. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's really pass pro where they struggle a lot. And that's partially why I think Isaac had the opportunity to create those runs, because both of those runs came from obvious passing situations. Receivers are down the field. Offensive line can't hold the pressure. So he just takes off, and, he's fast enough, which I feel like people didn't realize about this kid somehow, but he's fast enough to outrun you. And, he showed that. So I think, Utah's offensive line is not great across the board in the different categories where you would kind of talk about an offensive line. But I do think there's a lot of confidence in that run game right now.
Who's the best team in the Big 12?
Oh, it's Utah. Not even close. And we haven't even gotten to K-State yet.
I think that's true. Suck it up, Buttercup. Talking about Baylor. And I will say the same thing about Baylor that I say about Oak State. And I said this last year. I've said it all season. 8-Ball needs to not be the head coach at Baylor. Dave Aranda is an elite defensive mind who should not be a head coach.
Right.
And yes, I agree that Shedeur Sanders made a couple of unbelievable throws. The throwing catches, the dropped throw.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an unbelievable Shedeur Sanders performance. And in my opinion, Dave Aranda is another guy that's on the clock. Mike Smith, as much as Rising has been hurt and off the field, there's no excuse for Utah not to have a capable QB ready to play. And you have an elite one in Isaac Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the most recruited quarterbacks in the country. He played at a powerhouse program here in Utah in high school called Corner Canyon. He's elite. He absolutely is elite.
I truly, again, just my opinion, could be wrong, but my opinion is I feel like Utah through the week leading up to this game was preparing for Isaac to start. That was the mindset. Hey, Isaac most likely is going to start this game. And if Cam can go, great. That's obviously ideal. But we need to be in a mindset of, hey, we're playing this game with Isaac Wilson, and we're playing this game without Crenny Reed on defense, and we need to step up. Guys need to make plays, and we need to be disciplined and do our job.
K-State's true fabulously haired freshman got exposed by the BYU defense and the Vampire Cougs.
You got to have conversation.
Well, this is another game that we, again, and you guys know. We
would never, ever.
We don't talk about ourselves in any kind of bloviation type.
You got to get stroked.
Oration and stuff.
Right.
We nailed this game.
Right.
So again, what did I refer to Avery Johnson as? A quarterback who can't stand in the pocket and deliver the football or throw you to a win. And K-State fans across the board lost their mind over it. And then he couldn't stand in the pocket, deliver the football, and his interceptions crushed you.
Was it Lavelle?
I'm just going to repeat what I said Thursday, Friday, leading up to this game. 8:30 kickoffs at Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo, Utah, is where your dreams go to die.
Right.
And I know that K-State fans were in here last week talking about how their quarterback is a Heisman candidate.
Well, you don't watch K-State football.
We don't know what we're talking about with K-State.
Yeah.
It played out exactly how we said it was going to play out. In that, nobody saw that final score. Nobody. Avery Johnson is not ready to be a number one quarterback.
Why was the final score what it was? Take out the Kingston return. Take out some of the bigger plays.
Parker Kingston throwing up on the sideline.
Yeah, like we're all here for that. Clearly, as college football fans, but there was no staying power for K-State in this game. Like, you were running the ball effectively. I felt like early in this game, you were
handing the ball for 228 yards.
Right, like you were doing exactly what we expected you to do, and then somehow, some way, this game just kind of got away from you. And Obviously, I think the Kingston play is where this game ended, in my opinion, but there was no get back power, because the problem is when you're playing from behind, when you're in a game on the road in a tough environment and it's 21-6, let's say you're down a couple of scores and you got to get something going. K-State's offense and Avery Johnson are not built to throw the ball down the field and make these big game-breaking plays that'll get you back in.
I mean, I think the play that changed it was late in the first quarter. I want to say there was an Avery Johnson run where he got stuck. And I don't think he was the same player after that. And I think you watched the interceptions. They're terrible interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're throwing into...
He threw it right to him.
Triple coverage. I think he was hearing Jack Kelly's footsteps all night. I think he's just not ready. And I again point to Isaac Wilson at Utah and contrast him to Avery Johnson at K-State. All of you who ran Will Howard out of town to Columbus and you were happy to see him go and he lost his job and he sucks, where are you?
I know where you are.
Where are you?
You're laying in the bed that you made.
Because Avery Johnson's not that guy. And is he going to tear up teams? And is he going to run all over people? He is. He is Taysom Hill incarnate. And you remember Taysom Hill at BYU, and at least Taysom could stand in the pocket and deliver the football. Avery Johnson can't do that. And I ask you, what are the numbers we've talked about with this cat? Turnovers and completion percentage. Do you guys understand that now he is completing 59.5% of his passes on the season?
It's not week 1 anymore.
And when you look at this game, he completed 53% of his passes for an average. And what did I tell you? He's got to average 7 yards per completion. He averaged 4.6.
Now, in fairness to him in K-State, I will say he's a freshman. So,
but not a true freshman.
You've got time.
But
I know, not a true freshman.
He played last year.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at, and I actually think he's a sophomore, Avery Johnson is a sophomore. This is his first year as a full-time starter.
Yeah.
He's not ready. And I don't believe he's ever going to be ready. This is a cat who should be an H-back or a tight end. And you should give him the football as much as you can. But the truth of the matter at K-State is he creates a diminishing return for a guy like DJ Giddens.
Yeah.
He creates a diminishing return for Dylan Edwards, who is not nearly big enough in this offense. Because you're getting 11 carries for Avery Johnson. When if you had Will Howard and you were using Avery Johnson as an H or a tight end or the offensive weapon where he carries the football,
yeah,
that's where Avery Johnson now becomes a real problem.
And I think you make a good point about Giddens and Edwards. Like you're looking at two guys here who are clearly talented backs, man. I mean, very talented, very athletic, like quick, and the problem is when you don't have a good passing game that the defense has to respect. What did we see all night out of BYU? And again, it shifted because of the score of the game, right? But when this game was close, we saw BYU close to the line of scrimmage, protecting against the run. You had opportunities, which, to your point, Avery Johnson flat out missed several deep throws. Like his guy had a step and he flat out missed them.
And he looked scared. He looked scared. I don't know how else you spin this. And the truth of the matter is, K-State's a really good football team.
Yeah.
And they are going to go as far as Avery Johnson will take them. And if you're on the BYU side of this thing, this is the signature win of the Kalani Sitake era. You have now put yourself in a position where you should fire Kalani if they don't go to a bowl game. This would be the collapse of all collapses.
Yeah, what are you, 4-0 now?
Yes.
4-0? Yeah.
This would be the collapse of all collapses. That's the right guy for this job. Kalani Sitake's the right guy, and I don't want to hear another word about Jake Retzloff being the starting quarterback. I don't want to hear another word about call me Gary, not Jerry Bohannon.
Yeah.
Not two words. another really good performance with several big critical throws by Jake Retzloff. This was a really good performance. Jay Hill has arrived as the defensive coordinator. You look at the way that this defense absolutely schemed K-State into mistakes. I think it is the best performance that we've ever seen out of a Kalani Sitake BYU football team.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, the thing that's kind of crazy is like when you look at the turnover this team had into the draft and the portal, like you would have thought, oh, well, hey, you lost Max Tooley. Hey, you lost, some of your big hitters at linebacker. And what have they done? They've just simply created more Max Tooley's, right? Jack Kelly's an absolute savage. Jack Kelly is, I would agree, part of the reason Avery Johnson was running around scared in this game. And I think, you deserve a lot of credit for creating more guys that can make these big plays. Like, it needs to be said.
You've got the Taggarts, the Jacob Robinson's a DB that you guys don't know. He is going to be an NFL player. You look at Crew Wakely, whose wife did my car deal at BMW. I'm not even kidding you. You hadn't talked about Crew Wakely this year.
Who the hell is Sione Moa?
But this is my point now. You have depth on both sides of the football, and Sione might be the best example because I've told you on this show for BYU, LJ Martin is a hugely important player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not ready to play. Who are you, Cam Rising? Okay. Hey, if you're not ready to play, I have got Moa, Enoch Nawahina, who I told you.
Solid.
Nawahine, I would absolutely keep an eye on him. And the funny thing is, Jake Retzloff, who's one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in this league, was 4 carries for minus 10 yards. And you still ran effectively. And Sione Moa put this game away. And then you look at the best wide receiver rooms in this conference.
Good Lord.
I don't want to hear about Oak State because BYU's got the best wide receiver room in this conference.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's close because when Cody Epps is having trouble getting targets in this offense, because Chase Roberts and Darius Laster have turned into, again, and I'm talking about BYU football, when Chase Roberts and Darius Laster have turned into NFL caliber wide receivers, not one, but both of them. And you're going to see a situation where I think JoJo Phillips is just not able to get as many targets as he should because you have 2 dominant receivers. You have 4, in my opinion, 4 NFL talents on this wide receiver depth chart.
Well, and I think you look at what they did with Cody Epps in the red zone, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And it speaks to the quality of guys like Cody Epps, because what did they do? They created a scheme offensively in this game in the red zone where the defense thought you were going to the flat with Cody Epps. And where did you wind up going? Well, you wound up going to Darius Lassiter pretty much wide open in the end zone because they thought you were going to the flat. And that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Like, Cody Epps is a guy who's also had injury issues, but this year has been pretty good. Now, he's not getting as many opportunities because, like you just said, these other guys are stepping up, but that doesn't mean that they're not using those guys to affect the game. And I think that's what people don't want to talk about with BYU's offense. And I would agree. All the Retzloff haters can go ahead and get on the bandwagon now. You can go ahead and say, yeah, we were wrong. Jake is our guy. And I want to hear that today.
I am amazed how many people repeatedly for the last month have been anti-Jake Retzloff. And I don't know what you're waiting for to get on the Jake Retzloff train. The throw to Chase Roberts for the touchdown.
Sensational.
Gary Bohannon's not making that throw. He's not making that throw. And nobody's as sensational as Calford, who gifts 10 Monty Show members.
Let's go, Calford.
Let's go. Appreciate that very much. Calford, as always. Let's see. Let's get to you guys. Your comments have been amazing today. Please make sure you hit the like button. Jay McClenahan, Garrett Green had a great comeback in the last 4 minutes against Kansas. Huge win for West Virginia. And I know that Neil Brown needs fired, which is a YouTube account name on this show. That win right there, you're not spectacular by any stretch of the imagination. Your offense is at times boring.
Yeah.
But boy, did they need that win. After losing to Pitt, to come back and beat Kansas.
And how disappointing has Kansas been, bro? Like,
I don't know.
Like,
dead last in the conference.
I don't know. That's one of those where I'd be like, hey, what's going on here, man? Like, I understand you didn't get blown out, but that's not a good loss. If there is such a thing.
Yeah, you don't love the 2 picks, but you also love the 2 touchdowns. I thought it was a huge win. And again, when you're running for 150 and didn't they have 295 yards out of Garrett Green?
Yeah. Solid.
If Garrett Green's going to throw for 300 every week, you're never going to beat West Virginia. Now, the problem is that we
all know that he ain't that guy. Who are you, Avery Johnson?
That offense, I don't think allows him to do that.
Yeah.
I think the number is 200 and 200. You've got to get 200 yards rushing and 200 yards passing. You're going to be in most games. But just
nice week. Good win.
Yeah, a really good win. And now I think they're on a bye week until at Oak State.
They're idle. They're
idle. Thank you.
Yes.
I thought that was a huge win.
Yeah.
That was really important. Let's see. Cowpoke Ranch for $10. I'm still banned from the university YouTube page for calling for Gundy to be fired for 2 years. I'm pretty sure I started the fire Gundy movement within our fan base. Who would we hire now? I don't know, and I don't care.
Yeah, well, the problem is you're not going to fire him now. It would be after the season, and I think there's, in my opinion, there's an art and a certain way to do it when you talk about firing coaches. I mean, obviously, it needs to be said, Mike Gundy's had a hell of a run at Oklahoma State, right? He's done some great things. He's done some not so great things. But he's better than a lot of head coaches in college football. That does need to be said. Now, I agree. He hasn't won to the level he should be winning. I also agree that Oklahoma State is going to decline in the next couple of seasons, in my opinion, because he does not prioritize the quarterback position in the portal. So I think that you have a little bit of a downturn coming because of that. But who's available? Who should you go and hire? I think that's hard to say. And
that's very tough.
Frankly, I don't think as an Oklahoma State fan, you should speculate about who you want to hire yet, because you need to see who becomes available. I think that's the reality.
You would probably, I would think you would probably go defense. I would think so. I mean, the best teams in the country have the biggest defenses. I mean, Schulman at Georgia is probably the number one candidate for every job.
Yeah.
But if
you're at Georgia, are you interested in Oklahoma State? You're in the SEC. Are you interested in the Big 12?
I think you are. The problem is he's going to have access to every job.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, do you want an offensive guy or a defensive guy? In college, I'm probably going defensive guy. But if I'm in the NFL, I'm probably going offensive guy.
Right.
In college, I'm probably going defensive guy. And I think, there are good offensive guys available. I think Kotelnicki at Penn State is probably the best offensive guy out there. I think Garrett Riley at Clemson is, I don't know how he's not gotten more of a look. I think, again, I keep telling you the Dabo effect is real. I think Dabo Swinney is a guy that is not too far behind Mike Gundy on the way out the door.
Yeah.
But they're having a nice little season here. But I think I don't think you're firing Mike Gundy this summer. I do not. I think that Mike Gundy is at least a year away from that. But you better start having the conversation about how much rope are you going to give that guy?
Who's your next quarterback after this year?
You don't have one because he won't get in the portal and get one.
And so my point is, hey, if you don't have a quarterback, next year's going to be rougher than this year somehow.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Is Oak State not a good job?
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad job, but what I'm saying is if you're the defensive coordinator at Georgia, I don't think you're going from Georgia and everything that you can do at that level of program and going to Oklahoma State.
But
you're not
getting an SEC job. Who are you, Vanderbilt?
But that's my point. If you're a defensive coordinator at Georgia, are you leaving that gig to get a head coaching job at Oklahoma State?
Yes. I think because As a head coach, you want access. Are you leaving Georgia? What job was open this year? Are you leaving Georgia to go to Baylor? No, because you have no access. Are you leaving Georgia to go to Houston? No, because you have no access. Are you leaving the job at Georgia as the defensive coordinator to go to NEG5? No, because you have no access. If you run the program at Oak State, they have a really strong fan base, really good donors, good money, good facilities that are only going to get better. You have a want to there, certainly. That's a good job. That's a good job. Mike Gundy, and if you want to talk about what makes it a good job, look how difficult it is to get fired at Oak State.
Wow, that's fair.
Right? You're going to go there.
But I wonder if that ever changes. Like, because eventually Mike is going to either resign or get fired. Like, you, as a head coach, you take a job, you get fired. Like, that's an old saying in coaching. Everybody gets fired or resigns.
The fan base and the boosters are going to be the ones that are going to make that happen. That university will not fire Mike Gundy. They won't. And we've talked about this repeatedly. Joey McGuire, the fan base and the donors are going to have to make that happen.
See, like Tech, to me, I don't know. I feel like Tech is a better job because when Tech is good, dude.
Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Texas Tech's a better job than Oak State. No, it's not. Now, it's not. You're not even in the same.
Well, first of all, you're in the state of Texas.
You're in different countries. Well, Oak State might as well be the state of Texas.
Okay. Different countries, how different situations. How Oklahoma State hasn't been to the college football playoff. Texas
I don't disagree with any of that.
I don't know how we're sitting here saying that Oklahoma State would be a better job than Texas Tech when we know what Texas Tech is when they're good.
I can name you 100 reasons why. I agree that Texas Tech is a good job. The Oklahoma State football job, in my opinion, and I don't get in the comments section. Let's talk about it. I think the Oklahoma State football job is a big job. That's a big job. Is it anything? Is it the top of the SEC or the Big Ten? No, it's not Ohio State. It's not even Ole Miss. I agree with that. It's never going to be Texas. Is it the Oklahoma job?
Is Oklahoma State Miami? Are those two the same?
Oh my God, yes. Because Miami, just there's no expectations at Miami. There are. You had a belief in this. Do you guys understand the people that know college football thought Oak State had a legitimate chance to win this conference, even though I've been telling you that never going to happen?
But that's my point.
But people have expectations that Oak State is going to compete. Wow. And they're not competing. And it's because the coach isn't doing his job.
Yeah.
The coach isn't doing his job. Nobody has faith in Texas Tech or Joey McGuire. No, and again, nor should you. But that's not a program you expect to compete for a national championship. You expect Tech to compete for a national championship.
No, and I don't expect Oklahoma State to either.
And maybe that's where the rubber meets the road. Oak State James for $5. Don't come in and congratulate Utah, please. Congrats, Utah. They deserve to win. No, they didn't. And again, I'm not trying to be a red ass. You deserve what you've earned. They went into Stillwater and beat your ass. They punched you in the face, and you couldn't get up. You couldn't get up. They didn't deserve to win. They earned it. Mekhi Bernard's a stud. The Utah fans I met were very classy. Utah deserved to win. Okay. That's fine. The Buffalo Hunter. Utah and BYU in the top 25 is great for this state. Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, and I think, look, I think when we look at the Big 12 and the caliber of jobs, like BYU being at the top of the Big 12, that's not going to stay, in my opinion. You're probably going to finish 1 or 2 games over 500. We'll see. Maybe they shock the world, and they have a 2-loss season. Who knows? But they're going to obviously come back to the middle a little bit. But I guess I just feel like, when you look at the Big 12, like I'm shocked that people had expectations Oklahoma State was going to the college football playoff. I don't know. When you look at Oklahoma State, I don't know what would give you the idea they were going to go to the playoff, let alone win the conference.
T-Boone Pickens across the top of the stadium.
I guess.
They've got money. It's generational money.
And I agree with that.
They've got fan base. They've got... You've got Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas. What is I think I love Texas Tech. That's one of the teams I look at every single Saturday. But they don't have any of that. You hired a high school football coach to be your head coach. And he's failed, in my opinion.
For the comments section, deserved and earned are not the same thing.
No, they're not.
They're not the same thing.
No, they're not.
Deserved means, oh, well, here you go. We just, you.
And James, you can get upset about that. But this is the problem with Oak State fan. You don't want to come in here and say they dominated us. We're not good enough. They dominated us.
Mike Gundy should be fired.
You don't deserve it. How can I make people understand this? You don't deserve anything unless you earn it. They came in and they punched you in the face. And you had no answer.
Why are we talking? If you're an Oklahoma State fan, why are you talking about Utah? Like, why are you not talking about like, hey, yeah,
it is a tough Monday to be an Oaks. Not to interrupt you, I apologize. It's a tough Monday to be an Oak State fan.
Why are you not talking about Rucker on defense and how good of a game he had? Why are you not talking about, hey, Alan Bowman, has garbage footwork and looked terrible and then got taken out and then put back in because your backup was even worse? Like, why are you not talking about that? All jokes aside, I don't know what your offensive game plan was in that game. I don't know. Like, I'd have thought that you'd have come out and enforced your will in the run game and really tried to lean on Utah up front and said, hey, you're not going to come in here and push us around. That just simply didn't take place. So with all due respect, James, I get it. You're upset about how this game went and you can be all pissed off and say, see you tomorrow. Cool, dude. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that deserved and earned are two different things. Saying someone deserves something is hey, Isaac Wilson worked all week. He put in a ton of time. He deserves this start. Okay, fine. Earning it is, hey, we went on the road and we took it from you.
Guys,
you didn't give it to us.
I've been in this game a long time. You don't deserve anything in pro sports. You don't.
And yes, college football is pro sports.
Everything is earned. Isaac Wilson has earned the right to be the number 2 quarterback at Utah. Utah has earned the moniker as the best football team in the Big 12. They don't deserve that. They went on the field and they took it. And the problem for James and I saw this. This is Mike Gundy. It's pervasive at Oak State. You believe that you're something that you're not. You believe that you deserve some kind of respect. Respect is taken with violence in the game of football.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it. Because teams like Utah that are coached by guys like Kyle Whittingham, they don't come quietly. They come in and they run you over. And for everybody who showed up here Friday, how many guys were talking about how Ollie Gordon's going to have his get-back game and steamroll? Ollie Gordon does not deserve to be in the Heisman Trophy candidate talk.
No.
Because he hasn't earned it.
Oh.
Nothing is deserved in sports. Tanner Plummer, this is strange. James gives credit to Utah and he's getting flack for it.
Yeah, because what you guys don't understand is it's not about Utah. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, that's the problem, right? Mike Gundy wants to make it about Utah. Oh, well, they play better than they looked. Yeah, no kidding, right? They're better than you, but you shouldn't be talking about them. Let's stop playing the victim card. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, let's stop saying, oh, well, James tried to take the high road and Monty roasted him. I don't give a damn if you're trying to take the high road.
No.
The high road is not the point here. The point is, hey, dude, it's Monday after you guys talked a bunch of junk last week, and you don't want to say, hey, yeah, you know what? Dude, we've got major problems. I would be fine if James said, I would honestly be fine if James would say something like, hey, I honestly thought we'd beat Utah. And the fact that we haven't, I'm really upset about that. And, congrats to Utah, but we got to talk about our program.
But look at ball, whether it is basketball, football, I don't care. This deserved versus earned thing is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you don't deserve to win games. It is that do you remember the double doink with the Bears?
Yes.
That's what always comes to mind with this deserved
What did
versus
everybody
earned.
say with the double doink? oh, well, the Bears deserve to win that game and Cody Parkey screwed them. No, actually, Cody Parker's your kicker, and he didn't have the leg to get it done, and he double doinked it, so he didn't deserve to win the game.
Don't hit the upright, and you will have earned it if you didn't hit the upright. And again, I look at the Big 12, look at the bottom of this conference. How is Kansas dead last? Oh, I know, because they don't score points.
Yeah.
And the worst part about this is they have a really good defense. And Jalen Daniels has played. You look at TCU, you might want to find somebody who can tackle. Because you have an offense that do you guys understand that they've given up 128 points? You didn't earn a win. You didn't earn a win. Baylor hasn't earned a win. Oak State didn't earn a win. I look at BYU. Do you guys understand that BYU is what, the number 2 or 3 offense in this league behind TCU and UCF? Do you guys understand that BYU's defense is the number 3 defense in the league on points per game? That's called earning it.
Again, it's not early anymore.
Respect is not deserved. It's earned. Wins are not deserved. They're earned. You're not Michael Jordan because you deserved to get to be called the GOAT. You've earned it. Tom Brady didn't deserve 57 Super Bowl championships.
I feel like the best way to describe the difference here is when you say somebody deserves something, you're inherently saying, hey, you did X, so we should just give you Y.
Yeah.
Like, we should give you Y. And that's not how it works in football, man.
Yeah. Yeah. James, it's not, and again, it's not personal. It's not personal. When you lose, you need to come in and be like I would be talking about Mike Gundy and Alan Bowman today.
Yeah.
Alan Bowman is not a good quarterback. And I've been trying to, it gets personal in sports because usually it's you're on this side, I'm on that side.
Okay. Again, what was your behavior last week? What was your behavior and not James specifically, because James actually said Utah would win this game. That was his official pick. So he's on the right side of this thing as far as what he said would happen. But what was the consensus behavior out of Oklahoma State fan? Oh, Utah is terrible. We're going to run all over you. You're garbage. We're the class of this
Everybody
conference.
was saying this is the week that Ollie Gordon gets going.
And then what happened?
They didn't run the ball.
Then when it comes to Monday, I don't want to hear you guys talking about Utah with all due respect. What I want to hear you talking about is, hey, and we've had a couple of comments, where credit's, earned, right? Of people saying, hey, we need to be talking about Gundy. Yeah. And you should be.
Yeah. Mike Smith, if James came in and blamed Gundy, they would bitch because they were not giving Utah credit. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Because I think that's it. I think that the point is when you look at the Utah Oak State game, I think it comes down to an organization at Oak State that is not week in and week out built to win football games. That is the problem that we have had at Oak State for 2 years now. We had this exact conversation after the Texas game last year. You just haven't built a program where you're layered deep in talent. The problem at Oak State now is fundamentally you're not talented enough because you don't have a quarterback. It's at K-State. You're not talented enough because you don't have a quarterback. You have a really, I think, a pretty damn solid defense. You have a really good running attack, and you don't have a quarterback who can carry the mail. It's what we talked about with West Virginia. You have enough. Now you've got to get that week in and week out. And I'm of the belief that Neil Brown's not the coach who can get the most out of his talent. Right? I look at Michigan's win this week. Michigan wins because Miller Moss wasn't up to the task. Miller Moss at USC, the quarterback, threw a terrible pick six. And it cost USC that game. And I understand, if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm thrilled about that because you can't throw the football. Quite literally, you cannot throw the football at Michigan.
Yeah.
You don't have a quarterback capable of passing the football.
Yeah.
And you still beat USC. That's a huge win. That's a huge win. And in my opinion, I think it's like I look at Baylor this week. If you're a Baylor fan, how are you not marching to the president's office demanding that 8-ball is whacked?
Yeah, losing in that way is
You
you
give
can't
up
lose that way, dude.
multiple Hail Marys
Yeah.
in a game, not a season, in a game.
I mean, defending a Hail Mary is one of the easiest things to do as a defense because all you got to do is break up the pass. You don't have to catch the football.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it was a remarkable weekend in this conference.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the topsy-turvy nature of college football, it's not supposed to be in September. And one of the things that I think is very interesting is we get into hour number 2 of the Monty Show, presented by our good friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the app, download it on your phone, use the promo code Monty to get what I think is the best daily fantasy promotion I've ever seen, where you deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more. You make a $5 deposit in a new account at Prize Picks, they'll give you 50 more. Remarkable. Prize Picks, the official daily fantasy partner of the Monty Show. Use the promo code Monty. Make a $5 deposit in a new Prize Picks account. They'll give you 50 more. I think you look at the scheduling, and I think this is a big deal because for years now we've talked about, well, how many conference games should a power conference have to play? And if I'm anybody in the SEC, if I'm anybody in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is winning with this theory right now. If I am Ohio State, why would I schedule any big games in September unless I am forced to? I would not. Because is it hurting them in the polls?
Nope.
If you look at the AP poll, and you look at the top of the poll, Texas, Georgia, the Ohio State, Bama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Miami, Oregon, Penn State, and Utah. Who has Ohio State played? Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to Michigan State.
And look at this like slingshot effect that they create in their scheduling here. I mean, you really don't play anybody until you get to Oregon. Right? I mean, like
Iowa's tough.
I mean, but you're going to beat Iowa. You should beat. You want to talk about expectations? Ohio State should beat Iowa.
That's at the shoe.
Yeah,
I don't think Iowa can win.
Come on.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're going to go to Eugene 5-0.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it, in my opinion, because you haven't scheduled anybody, and nor should you.
And by the way, based on what we're seeing out of Oregon, I like Ohio State's chances in that game.
I would agree with that. But look at Indiana. Indiana's 4-0 with FIU, Western Illinois, at UCLA, quality win. Charlotte, and then they open up this weekend with Maryland. Like that's a pretty
right
smart schedule. Look at Iowa. Iowa's 3-1. Who'd they lose to? In-state rival, Iowa State. You can almost excuse that loss. Rivalry game. They've beaten Illinois State, Troy, and Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then bye week, now they got to go to the shoe October 5th.
Right.
I would be scheduling this way. It's what is such a head scratcher about Michigan's schedule. Because now Michigan's played multiple Power 5 opponents at Texas and SC.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, okay, well, if Michigan had scheduled the way Ohio State scheduled, wouldn't Michigan be 4-0?
And wouldn't the rhetoric or like the narrative around Michigan be a little more positive?
I think it probably would.
And I get it. And Michigan fan of, Ferris Khan and all the other Michigan guys in the comments, I'll give you your credit. Yeah, you want a ball
feel
game.
good today.
You should feel real good today. Obviously the passing game, I just don't think is ever going to develop this year just because of the talent you have. But the running game, obviously the running game is your bread and butter. And I think that, it was nice to see a bounce back performance against a Power 4 team. Now, I also, in fairness, need to say USC might want to learn how to tackle somebody. And I was very surprised at the lack of discipline with the angles they took and how they were going about trying to tackle a running back. Because if you're going to try and tackle a running back at the hips, you're not going to tackle that running back.
You're going to lose.
You're going to lose that. And you're going to especially lose that at Michigan, because we all agree Michigan is a power running program this year, right? Like maybe they didn't show out or play their best game against Texas. Maybe if you want to use that excuse, fine. I personally believe that Texas just beat your ass and is better than you and is basically better than any team in the country. And so that was just what it was. But in this game, you ran all over SC. And my only question is, what are you going to do later down the schedule? What are you going to do against Oregon? What are you going to do against thee? Because I'm telling you right now, thee is not going to miss those tackles, and thee is not going to struggle to get it going in the run game the way SC did.
Because you're going to have 8 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box, because the Ohio State can cover.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Look at Calford. 10 more. 10 more.
Appreciate you,
Monty Show membership.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Suck it up, Buttercup. As a Baylor fan, I feel totally humiliated by that loss. It is so difficult. And again, Oak State James, he's one of our guys. I love Oak State James. But do you know how difficult it is to talk the volume of garbage that Oak State fan talked leading up to that game, to lose like that, to get physically dominated, then I give you credit for showing up here.
Yeah.
And I'll even say I probably
we need to change we need to change this behavior as sports fans. Like there are so many red asses leading up to you notice that happens every week on the show. Oh, well, where's Avery Johnson defender today? Where's K-State saying BYU's garbage? Oak State fan or whoever you want to point. Furthermore, let me get this in. Where are all the prime haters today? Where are all the fire Deion? They're terrible. By the way, where are all the Matt Rule supporters after Matt Rule, seemingly nobody's talking about it, lost the game that he had no business losing? And I don't want to see Dylan Raiola acting like Pat Mahomes and then denying it on the dais anymore. Stop doing that, because you had an awful week.
I think this is a tough day for the haters of Deion Sanders. I would 100% agree with that, because I think when you look at the way that Colorado won that game, they won it with Shedeur Sanders, who Deion's talked about being the best quarterback in college football, who's getting 0 Heisman Trophy run, who's getting 0 love and respect across college football, who everybody is referring to as a trust fund baby. And then he comes out and does that. And now Colorado is 3-1, and they're doing it in spectacular fashion.
Must-watch TV fashion.
I think Colorado is, again, must-watch. And now they're 3-1. And with the way this schedule's playing out, it looks like K-State's beatable. Arizona's beatable, although that game's in Tucson, and Arizona.
Hey, you want a shootout, that's your game.
We'll see. Cincinnati's beatable. Texas Tech is certainly beatable. You're not beating Utah. You want to hear me, mea culpa? Obviously, I was wrong about Kansas. Kansas has been garbo.
Yeah.
They're beatable, and Oak State's beatable. Colorado's going to be in every one of those games.
Yeah.
And I think with the exception of this UCF game, will be very telling about Colorado.
Right.
But I think on some level, you have to give Deion credit, because, again, he's earned it. He doesn't deserve it. They've earned it. And I will go out of my way. I will go out of my way again to tell you, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football.
But okay, Mike Smith's comment at the bottom. See, Mike, you want to come in here?
Out of curiosity, what record did Colorado have after 4 games last year? But this was a remarkably different team last year.
Come on, dude.
I mean, I think one of the things that comes out of the Colorado game this week, and I haven't seen the efficiency numbers from PFF yet, the offensive line was remarkably better, surprisingly better. And you look at Shedeur, he throws 2 interceptions, does not throw an interception, and he still got sacked 8 times. And the offensive line played better, surprisingly. I think Shedeur holds the ball too long, which is a big part of it. But I also think you look at Silman Craig for Colorado. Again, he's a guy that I think when you Colorado's better. Their defense better. I think a lot of us were wondering how often did we talk about if they're going to be able to run the ball? They ran the ball for 91 yards. They only averaged 2.2. But I think it's very interesting to see the way that this offense has improved. And I think that you are going to have to probably rely on the spectacular play and hope for the best that this offensive line. Now, when I say I thought they were much better in pass pro this week and they still were terrible. Let's be very clear about that. I'm not trying to tell you they're playing good football up front because they're not, but you can see they're getting incrementally better. He's coaching his team. They're winning games. And I think the schedule last year, I also think we need to talk about that. When you talk about what were they 4-0 or whatever last year, I think when you look at their schedule and you understand that last year their wins were TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State in that thrilling overtime game. And then they got boat raced at Oregon and against USC. They lost 48-41 at Folsom. You don't have at Oregon and USC on your schedule. And you're a better football team. And he's in year 2. And Shador's in year 2. And that defense, the defense is without question better. I just think you can't compare the two. You can't compare the two. It'd be stunning if this season, what did they lose? The last 8 out of 9 games they lost last year. I don't think there's any way for that to be the case this year. They're just too talented. All things being equal, injuries and whatnot. I just think they're too talented. To have that kind of decline would be shocking. Shador's a scrub. Okay.
Yeah,
Calford.
that's rich coming from an Oklahoma fan.
How's Oklahoma fan doing this morning? No, and I'm serious. If you're an Oklahoma fan, how concerned are you about the Sooners? Should you be concerned about the Sooners? Do you have the right guy? Because how deep in the SEC are they right now? Oklahoma is, you're buried. And I mean, you're looking at like even Missouri. Missouri gets a win and they fell in the polls.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, I know they're not a blue blood. Are we all on the Tennessee bandwagon finally?
I guess.
Georgia, how about Arkansas being 3-1 with that offense? LSU, Texas A&M, South Carolina. How about Billy Napier getting a win? Was that maybe the most surprising outcome of the weekend?
Yeah, and they had a plan going in with their quarterbacks, work through that plan, and they got to win.
Mississippi State's not good. Blake Shapen, 13-21 for 140 yards. That's not good. But my point is Oklahoma's in real trouble here.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma is in real, tangible, are we good enough to compete in this conference?
It really bothers me that we do this to Colorado. I'll be honest with you guys. It really bothers me. You want to sit here and say that what was their record last year? Shador's a scrub. Like, look at your team. Like, you want to sit here and criticize Deion Sanders for not having a great finish to the year last year. They're already far and ahead of where they were last year. So we're happy to write positive narratives about Mike Gundy and the boys in Norman, and we're happy to say all that positive stuff. But then we go to Deion, and it's like, oh well, they're terrible, they're garbage. Shore's terrible. I'm done with
because
that.
I don't think that, again, deserve versus earn. Deion hasn't earned people's respect,
and that's fair. That's fair. But what anybody in college football should get is a fair point of view. An objective, unemotional. And I just don't feel like Colorado ever gets that. And I understand. I'm not sitting here saying that they are way better or they're going to be in the college football playoff. I've never said that.
Last year, Colorado was a carnival.
Yeah.
Last year, the offense, I think nobody had any idea what to think about that offense. And was Travis Hunter really this good? Was Horn this good? Was Shador this good? And then you found out real quick they actually could score points. They had no defense. This year, you know what that offense is, and they're still scoring points.
Yeah.
And now they have a defense that can compete with pretty much any offense, especially in this conference where I don't think you have spectacular offenses. I think Colorado is the spectacular offense. And it's going to be really interesting to see. And maybe Mike Smith you're right. Maybe they are the same team as last year. Having watched a lot of them both years, they're a completely different football team. The offense is actually schemed really well, and they are having to deal with Shedeur not having time. And the credit I give them on that offensive line is they're still Garbo, but you're seeing those they're not getting beat every time somebody runs a stunt. They were getting stunted to death last year and this year.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to understand that. And they've learned how to be communication and gap sound offensively. I think the other thing you're seeing is a much higher level of preparation, which you have to give Deion Sanders the credit for that. Because you can see that Shedeur and his backs communicate far more often. And I mean, listen, on some level, their offense just simply is, you cannot run next to Travis Hunter. He's just too fast. You're not going to run by, like you are not, if you truly look at what makes this offense tick, is it unbelievable execution out of Shedeur on those bombs? It is. But that's really bad defense for Baylor.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how you give that up.
And that's why I don't blame Baylor fan for being upset about it.
Baylor fans should be upset.
Yeah.
But some of the numbers that should just be mystifying to you is that Travis Hunter is averaging 18.6 yards per catch. Jimmy Horn Jr. is averaging 10. Their second receiver is averaging 10 yards a catch. Right? They averaged against Baylor 13.5 yards per catch. That's an elite number. I don't know how you defend that.
Yeah.
And their long was obviously the 58-yard bomb.
But if you think about 13 yards a catch, that's, you're getting first downs.
And the other problem is you're only averaging 2.2 yards a carry. And why are you only running the ball, into the middle of those lines a lot of time early in the game? Because you're trying to set your offense up for that big play. So I give them a lot of credit. This offense is doing more than I think we get at Colorado. The Colorado offense is doing more than we give them credit for. Colorado goes as Shedeur and Travis Hunter go, not as Deion goes. Just my opinion. But he is the head coach. And I think he's a lightning rod, and a lot of people will never say a nice thing about him. And I'm down with that. Again, he hasn't earned your respect. I totally get that. But you got to understand that Jimmy Horn Jr. is, dude, that's an NFL wide receiver. Travis Hunter's an NFL wide receiver. Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. So I would be, and I understand this take, and I don't think there's an argument to be had there. I think there's a lot of proving to do. They looked pretty impressive with the wins last year. Actually, I thought the offense looked impressive. I think you knew they were going to go, especially once Travis Hunter got hurt last year. You knew that they were going to get their doors blown off against Oregon. The shocking part was their complete collapse last year. Keith Carl, Iowa State at Utah in November might wind up being a big game of the year, the biggest game of the year.
See, Iowa State's got an elite defense. And, assuming that Cam ever decides to play a football game, I would hope that we get that matchup.
Hunter is amazing. He should be winning the Heisman. I don't know how he doesn't. Christopher Shannon, Rocco Becht is the best QB in the Big 12. You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You're out of your mind. And I like Rocco. I've talked about him a ton on this show. Rocco Becht is not the best quarterback in the conference. Yeah, come on. Thomas Reed, can we talk about JMU's beatdown of North Carolina? Did you guys hear about Mac Brown? He goes in the locker room, and now it's not even in a rumor anymore. Like, his players have pretty much confirmed. He told them, I won't coach this team anymore. I'm done coaching you. And walked out of the room. which is where Mac Brown resigned or Mac Brown was fired or Mac Brown, whatever all those rumors were Saturday night into Sunday. I would assume Mac Brown's still the head coach of North Carolina.
What did he say in the post-game presser? It's not good enough. It's embarrassing. It's everything you would expect a head coach to say. And
yeah,
hey, maybe measuring stick, right? It's a G5 versus a P4. I agree. I'd be pissed too. But maybe that's what gets his team going. Maybe he is still coaching you without you realizing it.
Oof. Jimmy Otson. Last year, Colorado was 3-1 leading into a Pac-12 schedule. This year, Colorado's 3-1 leading into a Big 12 schedule. Totally different. I think the Pac-12 was a far better conference.
Superior. Way deeper.
And you're not running into who's the Oregon of this conference. There's not an Oregon of this conference. And I think that Colorado State loss last year win, the physicality and the physical losses Colorado took in the Colorado State game, I think were devastating. You see the impact that Travis Hunter has. And I think you look at, and I pause because I'm not trying to throw kerosene on the fire. You look at just how good the Pac-12 was last year in football. I don't think there was any way Colorado rebounded from that, and clearly they did not. We'll see. Proof will be in the pudding. I mean, you're either going to fold, or if they're bowl eligible, I mean, he should get a lifetime contract.
Yeah, Jimmy, my question for you would be, since you're maybe hater strong, a doubter, whatever.
Do you think this is a hater comment?
Yeah, completely. I think that Jimmy doesn't want to acknowledge that, hey, you're in two different conferences. The competition is completely different. It's year 2. You've recruited. You've clearly improved your roster. That doesn't mean you're going to go out and win a conference, but it's clearly a different situation.
How many elite teams are in the Big 12? Maybe that's the conversation we should be having.
And even if you want to have it from that standpoint, to say like, hey,
I didn't read that. I didn't read that as, and I don't know, Jimmy, if you want to clarify. I didn't read that as a hater comment. Again, still O-line issues and defensive issues.
Yes.
I don't think they have the O-line's an issue. I think their defense is twice as good right now as it was at any time last year. Colorado's defense is actually making plays. And could they improve? Sure. Will they improve? I think they will. But the offensive line is the clear weakness of this team. And again, they are incrementally improving. So who is the elite team in the Big 12? Who are elite? Is BYU elite? They're not. Is Utah elite? I don't know. Ask me if Cam Rising's playing.
Yeah.
They're really good. They're not elite without Cam Rising. UCF's not elite. Cincinnati, Colorado, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Iowa State, Arizona, K-State, Arizona State, Oak State, Baylor, TCU, Houston, and Kansas. There's not an elite team in this league. And if you look at the Big 12 this year versus the Pac-12 last year, and that's why I said I don't think Jimmy was being sarcastic. And if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Maybe I'm wrong, but Jimmy, you should clarify.
I mean, you look at the league last year, this was a meat grinder of a league. Because Arizona was better last year than they are this year. Washington played for a national championship. Oregon played Washington in what could have been a national championship game. I mean, this team was.
And we're not even talking about Oregon State and Washington State, who were also very good at beating people that they shouldn't beat.
The Pac-12 was much better than the Big 12 is this year. I don't think the Big 12, again, I don't think they have an elite team. I'm still not convinced with Colorado. They are better, but they have shaving it way too close. I don't know, but they are better, but they are shaving it way too close. I think they're not. You're in year 2 of a new coaching regime. How good are you going to be?
Yeah, and again, we're not saying that they're winning the conference or they're elite. What I'm saying is that the situations are different. It's two different conferences.
Yes.
The talent in the Big 12 is clearly not as good as the Pac-12 was last year. You're in year 2, which means you've recruited better. You've got, again, even as terrible as the offensive line is, you are better in that category than you were last year, even though you still are terrible in that category. The defense is better, even with Shiloh being out, which nobody wants to talk about for whatever reason. I didn't see that anywhere on Twitter that, hey, by the way, dude broke his arm. He's not playing. He was basically captaining your defense, and you just lost that guy. and you're still playing good. So my biggest thing here is that it's easy to sit there if you're an SEC fan or a Big Ten fan. Colorado's garbage. Who cares? It's prime. He thinks he's better than that's the sentiment. And I just don't think it's fair. And then when you want to look at, what Oklahoma did this weekend or what SC did this weekend or these other examples, we don't want to have that conversation.
I think Deion has earned all the flack. I think he's earned all the hate. I think he's put himself in that spot. The problem is that's trickling down to his players because Shedeur is not getting Heisman consideration. And listen, I understand that this Heisman Trophy race is going to be very interesting as we head into October. I think that's where players will separate themselves. You have to win games to win a Heisman Trophy. There's no doubt about that. And Colorado, I think a really good season, as I said 5 minutes ago, give the guy a lifetime contract if they're bowl eligible.
Yeah.
I think Colorado has to find 3 more wins. And that still will not even be close enough to get Shedeur to the Heisman ceremony.
Yeah.
So
hopefully Travis Hunter's there, though, because I feel like a lot of people say that he should be there.
He should be there.
Like nationally, I think a lot of people give him credit.
Go Balance says Heisman, Cam Ward, cough. Yeah, Cam Ward is another amazing performance. If you're a Washington State fan, you owe that cat an apology, in my opinion. Mike Smith, it would be amazing to see what Sanders could do with a steady O-line and running game.
I would agree with that. Who is Shedeur Sanders if he's playing at Texas? If he's playing at Georgia? If he's playing at...
Could you imagine Shedeur Sanders at Georgia? Oh, my God.
Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess this isn't even really a Colorado conversation for me. It's more of a conversation that we love double standards in sports. We love to say, oh, well, hey, man, like that. Oh, we're talking about my team. Well, it wasn't a bad loss. Like Bowman was fine, or this dude, Rocco Becht, was fine, even though we lost the game. Like, we want to be nice here, but we don't want to be honest. I'm not saying Colorado's elite. I'm not saying that they're that much better, but we need to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation because I would agree he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. But I don't believe people deserve anything. I think it's what you've earned. And Deion hasn't earned respect, period. Let's see. Vivid Psychosis for $2. CU Rush rank 113. UCF number 1. CU Rush D 82nd. Sam Houston 76. Okay, and?
So what point are you trying to make?
I don't know what point you're trying to make. Because nobody said either one of those are elite. I don't think anybody has said that. But hey, that's is what it is. Jimmy Otson, don't hate Colorado. I think they have a chance to make some noise this year, maybe get 8 wins. If Colorado got 6 wins last year, I would have given Prime Coach of the Year. Yeah, well, it's tough. I go back to the turnover the bottom 25% of your roster. Every team does it. When Deion does it, he gets a lot of heat for it because he talks about it, and we're Louis, and you got to win games.
Yeah,
that's how respect is doled out. You got to win games. Let's see. Taytown Hawk, Wazoo and former Wazoo quarterbacks are combined 10 or 11 wins to 1 loss, I think.
Yeah.
Cam Ward's really good. Really, really good, which is wild. I mean, he's in a better spot. What do you guys make of Oregon? Is Oregon good? No, I'm being serious. Is Oregon good?
Not as good as last year.
Oh, well, certainly not. But I don't know if Oregon's good. That's crazy to say that.
That's what I'm saying. The Ohio State game is massive because, I don't think that Oregon is not national championship good this year. They're not that same team as they were last year. But I also think you lost a lot of talent. And I think, again, it's this whole quarterback situation. Like, we're starting to find out that Bo Nix was in fact one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year. And I feel like a lot of people are now saying that now that he's, doing what he's doing in the NFL. And I think that I think that, with the Alabama situation that went down over the offseason and Dan being a part of that conversation, like that had to kind of get put to bed, and he said no to that and came back. And then, Dylan Gabriel's had to figure this out a little bit. Like, I just think they're going through some things, and they're fortunate that it is the Big Ten, and half of that conference, is terrible on the football field. So they've had some time to figure it out. But are they good? I don't think you're good enough to win the Big Ten. No, I don't.
I think you're going to score a point. They need to go to Pasadena and thump UCLA. That's what makes you feel better about your life.
Yeah.
Go inflict misery on UCLA.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's what makes you feel better.
Another thing we told you was going to happen, by the way, the UCLA LSU game.
If you're an LSU fan and you're not worried about Brian Kelly, man, seen that show before.
Yeah.
I am the SEC is I'm not sure how anybody can say the SEC is not the best conference in college football. I don't even know if is that a thing anymore? The offenses in the SEC, it is insane how many points those teams are scoring. It is incredible that you're looking at Lane Train and Jackson Dart doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I am so impressed with, even just, if we just look at, and there hasn't really been a lot of significant games, but Texas without Quinn Ewers put up 51 points. Okay, it's Monroe. I get it. Ole Miss put up 52 points. Tennessee put up 25 on Oklahoma. Look at Vandy this year. How is Vanderbilt taking Missouri to the limit? The SEC that's the best conference in football.
Yeah.
And I always tell you the bottom of the conference is what makes you good. Vanderbilt's almost, can I say that out loud? Vanderbilt's almost winning games they've played in.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In football. I'm talking about football. That's what's crazy to me. Auburn, Oklahoma. They're good. And then you have Bama, who's 3-0, obviously on the bye, who's got Jalen Milroe, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. Kalen DeBoer, the drop-off hasn't been that significant. And then you have Tennessee and Georgia that I think Tennessee is putting it on people.
Mm-hmm.
They've scored 200 points, I think. They're the first team in the country to 216 points.
Obviously, Heupel going back to Norman is, that game was personal for him in terms
Clearly.
of that. Obviously you wanted to go back and, you wanted to get a good result, and they did that. And I think that, again, I'm just going to use the same measuring stick. It's only week 4 or whatever. So, hey, show me who you are later in the year. But I would expect, Tennessee's a team. My only question for Tennessee is can you maintain this level of performance? Like against, the better SEC talent in the conference? Can you put up 30? Because I think you can, but against a physical Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss kind of defense, do you have that kind of fight in you to do that? Because we know that you have the firepower, but when you're getting hit, when they're winning the physical battle up front, can you still make the throw? Like, those are the things now that I think Tennessee's kind of graduated to. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see when we get to November 1st, who's still left.
Yeah.
I think in the Big Ten, Ohio State's the best team in the country. In one of. I think in the SEC, I have no idea who's going to be standing November 1st. I have no idea. The Big 12, I would guess it's Utah. Utah can't let down against Arizona this weekend.
Well, now if you're the Big 12, you can't afford to have Utah not win the conference. That's the risk you take with Oklahoma State losing that game.
Does K-State bounce back? This is a huge weekend for those two teams. Is it crazy they're playing each other this week? That's going to be a huge game. My point in all of this is, the SEC, I have no idea who's going to be standing there. The Big 12, it's Utah. The Big 10, it is the Ohio State by a lot. I think it's going to be very interesting to see who's left at the end of the year. This is what makes college football great.
Yeah,
truly. RJC, man, Eli Holstein deserves a lot of love given how he slings the rock. Pitt is it. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Vivid psychosis for $2. UCF 387 rushing yards against Sam Houston with a better rush D than Colorado. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, great.
I
Appreciate it.
I'm not sure what your point was. Christopher Shannon, Oak State versus K-State will win it. Oak State or K-State will win it. Will win what? The game this weekend, obviously. Not just a Ohio State, the Ohio State.
Right.
Which is funny. Yeah. And Eric and Raleigh, what do you make of the ACC right now? Is Clemson actually good?
See, that's going to be tough to determine because they don't play anybody in the ACC. Like we don't have a measuring stick. We don't have, Tennessee, Georgia. We don't have we don't have that big matchup that lets us know like, yeah, Klubnik's that dude, or this guy can play or whatever. Like we don't have that, and so ACC. Like Clemson fan will tell you, yeah, we're that guy, but you don't really see anybody.
They currently don't play a ranked opponent until Louisville at Clemson on November 2nd.
But like what happens from a scheduling standpoint? Let's say that Louisville struggles a little bit through the middle of their schedule there. I mean, what happens if they're not ranked when you play them? And now, you lost the Georgia game, obviously. You lost you just don't have a way to get back. And I think it's fair at this point to say that the ACC, as far as this season is concerned, is just irrelevant. There's not much to talk about. Like now that Florida State's looking to settle, now that both football programs are not good, like what's left to discuss?
Louisville could very well not be in a great spot. I think that's a really good football team, but they have at Notre Dame, SMU, at Virginia, Miami, at Boston College, at Clemson on November 2nd. That's a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree that Miami is a really good football team. But even they are Virginia Tech, at Cal, at Louisville, Florida State, Duke, at Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. They should run the table.
Right.
If they are truly that guy. That game with Louisville, October 19th, could be very telling. That could be very telling.
In Miami, over the weekend, they get off to this slow start against USF. It kind of had to get it going a little bit. Obviously, they wind up winning the game and everything, but it just was like that first quarter was interesting, to say the least.
I think it's going to be difficult for them to play at an elite level all season because you're going to get bored.
Yeah.
And I think, again, Cam Ward throwing for 400 yards.
Yep.
Have you guys looked at Cam Ward's numbers?
Gaudy.
He's got 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions at Washington State. Oh, I mean Miami. Can you imagine? Oh, man. I Washington State fan, just it doesn't matter what happens this year. You're just taking it you're getting kicked repeatedly.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks. That's part of the Arizona, the eye patch. Arizona at RES. Utah should be a 7.5 point favorite. I think this is the trap game of the season. The trap game of the season.
There must be a line on that already, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it's the trap game of the season for Utah. Because Arizona did not look good. Arizona did not look good in any way, shape, or form. And if you look at if internet would work the way internet is supposed to work, Utah is 12.5 points. And I think a lot of that's going to come down a skosh, but I think a lot of that is how bad Arizona looked.
Well, I mean, I could see again, we're going to play the game with Cam's availability in terms of the line, right? And that was the other thing I think we forgot to just touch on briefly with that Oklahoma State game. The line had flipped again, right before the game. So I think we're seeing a lot of hedging in terms of like how people see the Utes right now. And I think,
but Arizona looked terrible.
They did.
K-State,
and Isaac Wilson looked really good. And I think if you're creating a line, 10 is probably where that number settles in. 9-10 points. That's probably what I would think would happen.
Yeah. I think Arizona's got to prove itself, and that's a really tough place. A night game, isn't that the late game?
That said,
8:15. Yeah.
That said, I do think that Fafita and company are the most explosive offense that Utah's seen so far.
I would agree. It's going to be a great game. I'm excited for that game as well. That'll be good. Let's see. Go Balance says, I love to see chaos in the 12-team playoff with an underdog winning the national championship. Would be amazing. UW fan Jim, good morning to you. Take out Utah and Ohio State, and the Big Ten is still far better than the 12. I don't think there's any doubt.
No question.
Right now, and this is the issue with the Kansases and the Oak States, frankly, and Texas Tech. It's just a weak conference football-wise to start the season. And that doesn't get better because you're going to run into each other. This loss for Oak State is really damaging because now you're asking questions about, well, is Oak State the Arkansas team or was this just a really good Utah team?
Because what are they, 2-1 now, right? Oklahoma State
3-1.
3-1 now. So, I mean, you're still only one loss, but now this puts you in a position where you have to run the table.
Well, and you just haven't felt good about Oak State all year.
Right.
Like there's been questions all year.
Yeah.
The Glass City Buck, the Ohio State.
Right.
A Ohio State, Tanner Plummer says. Okay. A Ohio State. I think Oregon loses to Ohio State, but that Michigan versus Oregon game will say who's going to the Big Ten championship or the playoff.
Right. I don't know what to make of Michigan yet. I feel pretty strongly the passing game is not going to show up. I just don't think that
Michigan's not a Big Ten championship caliber team. I don't think that's not what you meant. I'm hoping.
No, I'm not saying that Michigan.
Not you. I mean the comment. You can't truly believe that. What is Oregon's schedule? Oregon's schedule at UCLA, Michigan State, and then the Ohio State game the 12th of October.
Right.
At Purdue, Illinois, at Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin at Camp Randall, and Washington. That's a 4-loss schedule. So for Michigan, Minnesota at Washington, at Illinois, Michigan State, Oregon, at Indiana, Northwestern, at Ohio State. That's a 4-loss schedule. Here's my question. Is Jed Fish capable of not losing another game this year?
Yeah.
That's tough. You took a terrible loss against Washington State. You can't lose that game. And you're at Rutgers, Michigan, at Iowa, at Indiana, USC, at Penn State. You see where I'm going here?
There's another loss there for sure.
There's 3-4 more losses there. That's going to be problematic. And then, of course, it always comes down to the Fighting Paterno Pedos state and stuff. How good is Illinois? Now, I understand that Northern Illinois, who can't count past 10, Marcus Freeman. I get it.
Notre our mother.
Northern Illinois is going to run the table. They're going to they lost this weekend. Nice job, Marcus. Thanks for screwing us in South Bend.
Dude, it was one of the most sensational wins we've ever seen.
Is it? I'm bitter.
You should be.
I am bitter as hell about Notre Dame.
Would you take Gundy to coach Notre Dame?
Shut up, Jake.
Sorry.
My point is, why would you say something like that?
What do you mean?
Do you know
I'm a man.
Not only can Marcus Freeman not count past 10, then to take a step back to Gundy?
Because it's illegal.
Come on.
I don't break the rules.
How good is Illinois?
Apparently better than Nebraska.
Can they beat Penn State? And that's a primetime game, 7:30 in Happy Ending Valley.
No,
you're not winning that game.
You're not winning that game.
Penn State is Illinois and UCLA, at SC, at Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington, at Purdue, at Minnesota, Maryland.
See, now I got to ask which SC we're going to get because that defense has been inconsistent now.
As a little, you guys might want to tackle.
Yeah.
I think playing an early game at Michigan for a West Coast team is tough.
It is. And that's what I'm saying. You're playing, I mean, what was that, a 10 a.m. kickoff, I think, right?
That's a tough game.
I mean, that's a 8 a.m. game for you. Like, that's not easy.
No. 10 a.m. kickoff. It would have been 10 Pacific because it was.
It was a noon kickoff.
Yeah. So big noon kickoff. So I don't know. I think I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was 1:30 Eastern. So what is that? 10:30 Pacific time. Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10:30.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. Michigan is not elite. Let's truth tell. And I'm a big believer in truth telling. Michigan had 32 yards passing on 7 of 12. I said they had 32 yards passing.
Gotta tackle people, man.
And the dozen missed tackles by SC determined the game. And when you are running for 290 yards and averaging 6.3 yards a carry,
it's just terrible.
and USC missed 12 tackles, I'm going to say that, yeah, I'm not ready to anoint Michigan somehow as some unbelievable team. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Calford with 10 more.
Hey, man. Do you. Appreciate you, bro.
Love it.
By the way, Calford, how'd Prize Picks work out for you? Me and Calford were discussing it over the weekend. Don't look at me, dude. Wasn't my idea.
Idiot. Well, let's play the 6 team.
Hey,
let's play the 6 selection.
I actually thought it was a decent opportunity.
Why I ever listen to you on Prize
I'm
Picks?
terrible. I know.
Anytime Jake's like, "Hey, Marty, we got to play the 6er."
Listen, I was sitting in my CNS seating, looking at the opportunity, and felt like, hey, the roller was tasteful. It looked good.
Why would I ever listen to you?
My other stuff went well. That just didn't go for me.
I won my other
Prize Picks.
Well. My other stuff went.
Like, let's see. Let me pull it up. So I won the Zerline Rogers Caleb Williams NFL one.
As did I.
And then I also won my Cam Rising Bowman and Cam Ward Prize Picks.
I won. I'm so mad at you for that 6-pack. I won Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Williams. I should just only play baseball on Prize Picks because I would like to thank the beloved, the best team that plays baseball in Chicago, which isn't something to be proud of. God, the White Sox are terrible.
Yeah.
I would like to thank Seiyao Suzuki, who was 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI. He had a hit and an RBI for 2.
Nice.
I just have not. I have had a terrible NFL season on Prize Picks. Terrible. RJC, man, Clemson plays at Pitt week 10. Okay. We'll see. We'll see how all that plays out. We'll see. Smash the numbers. Michigan outlasts its opponents and wears them out. It's been that way for 3 years. You threw for 32 yards.
Yeah.
Stop fantasizing with yourself. That's just not, every team misses tackles in the fourth quarter. They missed a dozen. That is the whole point of BOA constrictor mentality. Listen, Michigan won the game. But if you feel good about your offense, I'm not sure which Michigan team you're watching because they're not good. Mike Smith, I will not endorse the fruity pizza people. Okay. I hate pepperoni. Never, ever will I ever. What do other conferences do if the playoff is only the Big Ten and the SEC rankings?
I don't know. Figure out how to get better on the football field. That's all you can do.
I'm on it. Those automatic qualifiers don't mean anything.
Yeah. JMU's getting in.
Ask the ACC. Ask the ACC. Ask the Big 12. Because they're both getting one team in right now. That's it. They're both getting one team in. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. Notre Dame needs Neil Brown. Then he can understand how Mountaineer fans are red-ass crazy talking about firing him. You guys, and it's justified. Am I wrong I look at a football team and I say, good coach. the Chicago Bears, not a good coach.
Garbo.
Mike McCarthy in Dallas, not a good coach. Neil Brown at West Virginia, not a good coach.
Carolina Panthers.
Too young to tell yet.
But
shocking.
The Red Rocket.
Shocking. Good
Let's
call,
go, baby.
Good win. But Lincoln is elite. He is an elite offensive coach, and their defense is much better. I think Lincoln, I would have, if Notre Dame could hire Lincoln Riley today.
Yeah. And I also don't
today.
I know he's the head coach, and that's why he bears responsibility for all those missed tackles, but dude's not on the field, tackling people. Like at some point, his players have to embrace the fact that you can't miss those tackles, bro. Like that goes back to like Pee-wee football, dude. Like, and that's my thing with Michigan is it's not rocket science. If you tackle, they lose the game. Like that. If
you
easy.
just make 2 tackles in the box.
Yeah.
But when we shouldn't say that. That pick 6 was good Lord. MWA, Elite Lincoln is tarnishing rapidly. I would agree. He's got to win this year. UW fan Jim, better or just higher ranked? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm lost on that. I apologize. Shouty, hi. Marty, Texas Tech as a school has more money than Oak State, and Texas Tech donor base has more money, and Texas Tech has more living alumni. Who cares about living alumni?
Yeah.
I'll continue to go back and say there's no excuse for Mike Gundy not to be winning at Oak State. And you guys, I love my friends in Lubbock. I am a huge Texas Tech supporter. I have zero expectations that team will compete at the top of the Big 12. Joey McGuire ain't it. As soon as that zero blitz was called in overtime at YO last year, Joey McGuire ain't it. Has their defense, you want to rip Deion? Has their defense in Lubbock gotten any better? You have the best running back in the Big 12 in Taj Brooks. The best running back. You have arguably the best quarterback in the Big 12 in Baron Morton. And you can't stop the Girl Scouts.
Right.
And you want to talk about living alumni? I frankly, well, then let them play defense. You have so many living alumni, suit them up. Because your guy is not the guy. The next time that Texas Tech is relevant, it won't be with Joey McGuire as the head coach. Because he is lost defensively. And I'll go back and stand on business about what I said about Oak State. If you're going to fire Mike Gundy, go hire the best defensive guy available.
Facts.
Because you look across this country, Lincoln Riley tarnishing his image. Why is that? They're amazing offensively. They, again, can't tackle the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
So give me the best defensive guy in college. Give me the best offensive guy, because if you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, you're not winning. But I can find somebody to tune up my quarterback in college. I need somebody who can stop high-power offense in college. And Joey ain't that guy. And until he completely flips the script, you have to do what Lincoln Riley did, which is go hire the best available defensive guy you can get. Danton Lynn out of UCLA, fantastic. Win the portal, put a bunch of dudes in there. Now, let's do some tackling drills of practice this week.
Yeah.
Right?
You think?
Oh, Jay McClanahan, keep Joey in Texas Tech, give West Virginia more chance to beat them. Exactly. I'm just very analytical about sports. I don't get emotional about many things.
Well, the officials with the Chiefs, but that's a different thing.
Again.
That's a different thing.
Again, Travis Kelce's washed. And how many calls are the Chiefs going to get every week? And when are we going to stop hiding from it? Because they're getting help every single week.
And what's funny, too, is it's graduating from Juwan Taylor on the end of the line now stuff in the secondary.
That's pass interference.
Mm-hmm.
It's pass interference in the end zone, mind you. My point is, in sports, I get emotional about the Chicago Bears offensive line. And that's really it. I'm pretty much a straight shooter. No pun intended, Lubbock. I'm pretty much a pew-pew when it comes to Texas Tech. Joey McGuire ain't it. I've told you this about Avery Johnson. He ain't it. And usually when I put myself out on a limb and not being arrogant, how often am I wrong about Avery Johnson? How often am I wrong about coaches? How often am I wrong about the Oak State situation? Not very often. Because I've seen it over and over again. It might as well be my favorite movie because I've seen the movie 100 times.
Right.
You have to be unemotional about your football team. That's how you understand who they are. And my team at Notre Dame, we just aren't good. Riley Leonard's not a game changer. Marcus Freeman's not a national championship caliber head
I was
coach.
going to say Marcus Freeman's definitely a game changer.
In the wrong direction. I mean, it's all you need to know that multiple times against Ohio State last year, especially at the goal line with the game on the line, you had 10 guys in the game. And this year, multiple times, your guys aren't lined up in the right position in the secondary for the second year in a row. Marcus Freeman's not that guy.
Pal.
Sharon Moore, not that guy at Michigan. You should feel good today about beating USC. Michigan fan, I'm here for you today. But let that last as long as you possibly can because reality is going to set in. You can't score points. You need USC to miss a dozen tackles because you're going to throw for 32 yards.
And I think a lot of those tackles were the ones that Texas made, and that's why you couldn't do anything against them.
Yeah. I think this conference, the Big 12, needs the state of Texas to stand up.
Yeah, well.
But I don't understand what that was from TCU. And you've got coaches at Baylor and Texas Tech who just shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And Joey's going to be there, according to all the boosters who DM me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about.
I just don't know how long is the leash, man? I mean, how long are you going to sit here and be like, yeah, we're at the bottom of the conference. We're not able to beat the best teams. But, Joey's good.
How long does Mike Gundy have? 2 more years, I think, at a minimum. If he wants it, I think he's got all of this year, all of next year, and then we might be asking questions about his job if nothing changes.
Yeah.
Then we might be. You're not firing.
I just think culturally.
Are you going to fire Mike Gundy?
Culturally in Stillwater, I just don't think that's how they just don't look at it analytically, as you say. They are living on, hey, like, man, Utah was just better that day. Like, we can bounce back. Like, I think there's a lot of that kind of goes on rather than just saying like because what you should be saying is, hey, Texas and Oklahoma are out of the conference now. Now we have a legitimate path to getting to where we want to go, and we're just not there yet. Yeah,
I agree. A couple more because I do want to get to some NFL today. Mike Smith, Oak State fires Gundy, hires Aranda, head explodes. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine if Mr. Clean winds up going from Waco to Stillwater?
Bro, you went from the mullet to God. Mr. Clean 8-ball Aranda.
So all that hair to no hair and still no wins.
Does Dave actually put on a visor just to pay homage to Gundy, or like what are we doing?
That would be wow. Roundabout. Pretty emotional about pepperoni because pepperoni sucks. It's terrible. Speaking of pepperoni, Calford is scaring Texas residents with that talk. What did Calford say? I don't know. I appreciate all the comments today. Go KC, K. Nurin says. Andy Reid, BYU. You got to be in a pretty good place today, K. Nurin, with BYU. Daniel Dixon, hello. As one who lived in Lubbock for 6 years, Texas Tech making me sick and sad for the fans. It's tough because Texas Tech fans are some of the best fans in college football. It's Texas Tech fans are amazing. They really are. And it's just like ritualistic torture being a Texas Tech football fan.
Yeah.
Like, you almost just don't turn the game on and look at the box score tomorrow morning. Right? Shouty, who going to win the Big 12 since Texas and OU left for Big 12 championship? How is it not today on September 23rd? You cannot say anything but Utah.
Right. You don't really have another option.
Without Cam Rising, they go to Stillwater and win. Oh, look at that. How about that? We welcome Jeremiah Champion. Hey.
Let's go, baby.
Where you been, dude? Good to see you, Jeremiah Champion. Welcome back to the membership. Appreciate you very much. Our membership is easy. Just hit the join button. It's $1.99 for our entry-level membership. Jake runs the members-only Instagram chat.
Right, yeah.
You guys in there having a good old time?
Yeah, it's great.
All
man.
the millennials and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
$9.99 gets you into our members-only Instagram chat. $1.99 gets all your comments highlighted in red on the show. Roundabout, not Utah, just said it. So Utah won't win. Okay. Louis Capazzo, how are you? Good to see you. Pepperoni with blue cheese is Monty's worst nightmare.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Nope. BYU and Utah are now the best teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too high on your horse there with BYU.
Here's the question. Who's the number 2 team in the Big 12?
We're going to find that out this week.
Does K-State bounce back against Oak State? Because if you look, UCF is probably the second best team in the conference. I mean, that's a team that scores a lot and doesn't give up much. Right? So I would think it's crazy how close BYU, Utah, and UCF are statistically speaking. 130 points, 50 points against. That's not bad. I think the second best team in this league is UCF. And I know nobody will say it. And again,
what teams are we talking about in the Big 12, dude?
Push that back there. Okay, get that. Okay, pat on the back. Think I told you Big 12 Media Days, UCF was going to surprise some people. Not only smart, but good looking too, friends. Okay. USC players definitely looked beat up physically. They didn't.
Next comment.
They didn't look beat up physically.
Yeah.
They looked like they missed tackles.
Yeah.
Some other day. Calford, SMU rules Tarrant County, boy.
Dallas.
Can you explain to me what that was? That TCU or was that SMU? Because I don't know. That SMU TCU game was brutal to watch. Again, was that SMU or was that TCU?
Just want to point out that all the teams doing well in the Big 12 right now are all new members, relatively speaking. Obviously, BYU
relatively
last
speaking.
Year. We're not talking about, Kansas and Tech and Baylor and all these OG.
Is SMU a legitimate ACC contender?
I mean, this is the year. The ACC is down, clearly. So, yeah, I think it's the year.
Tomorrow on the show, I'll also have a new angle on the Pac-12. There's a good Pac-12 story I'm working. We'll have that for you tomorrow. Big Lubbock, Texas Tech does not play Utah, BYU, K-State, or UCF. But you did play Abilene. Abilene.
Well, they played you.
I ain't no millennial. You take that back, Marty. Brandon Butler's in the members only chat. That's true. Good to see you, Brandon. Pepperoni blue cheese and Texas being bad is Marty's worst nightmare. Texas is back. Iowa State. I don't know. Jury's out on Iowa State. Iowa State is very, very good defensively. But I don't know that they can score enough points to win the conference. That's my biggest question. What are they, top 20? And they beat North Dakota, Iowa, and Arkansas State. Not an offensive juggernaut amongst them. And now your schedule is so soft. At Houston, Baylor, at West Virginia, and then UCF, but that game's in Ames. Texas Tech and Ames, at Kansas, Cincinnati, and then you finish with at Utah and home for K-State. I want to see K-State bounce back.
Right.
Does that BYU performance wreck Avery Johnson, or does he bounce back?
Well, you'd expect him to bounce back. It's at home for them, right?
Yeah.
So, you would expect them to bounce back, but we'll see. I mean, again, the same questions about Avery Johnson are the same questions I have about Alan Bowman. I mean, do we get a bounce back out of Bowman? Do we see that running game come alive?
Woo, I don't know what to believe about Avery Johnson. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And he's going to have to go into a place like Provo. He's going to have to go to a place where he's throwing them to victories, because you run, look at the collisions that Isaac Wilson had against Oak State. because Oak State's defense is eventually going to get healthy. Their secondary's garbo, but their linebackers are eventually going to get healthy, and they'll put a hat on you. Avery Johnson cannot continue to run this much. And why are you with two? You have two quality backs. He's running that much because he can't throw.
Yeah,
which is problematic. All right, let's get to some NFL. What is going on with the Dallas Cowboys? I don't know, but our NFL talk this hour is presented by our good friends at Canyons Resort, Canyons Golf in Park City Mountain Resort. Canyons Village is where you find Canyons Golf, the official golf resort of the Monty Show. Was up there hitting power draws over the weekend. Amazing. Lush fairways. So many missed putts that were...
Fall colors are out, though. It's very pretty.
Doesn't help the putt go in.
I know.
Fall colors are out. Beautiful mountain golf. I'm telling you, if you haven't golfed in the mountains, get to Park City. Park City Mountain Resort, Canyons Village, Canyons Golf. Just Google search Canyons Golf Park City. It'll come right up. Book your tee times online. So good to see so many of our listeners up there this year. Full tee sheet Saturday and Sunday there. It was tough to get a tee time. So book ahead. Get in. Get out there. We still have 2 more weeks. I think, 3 weeks left to play golf together. Let's go. Hook it up. Canyons Golf. And the thing I love about Canyons, as I always say, is the fairways are really lush. You just drive the hell out of the ball. And I'm hitting my 5 and my 6 iron. I hit a majestic. It had to be 230.
Yeah.
230-yard 5 iron Saturday at Canyons. That just was beautiful high little draw. Like, it's so awesome to play mountain golf and just watch the golf ball fly. It is so much fun. It is such a beautiful atmosphere. Such a great community at Canyons Golf. With their member pricing and their events, they have monthly member tournaments, banquets, and the best part is go play 18 holes at Canyons Golf and then go into the village and have a great meal. World-class dining. I'm telling you, bottom of the Pendry building, this little Mexican cantina. Hook it up. Canyons Golf, the official golf resort of the Monty Show. What is going on with the Dallas Cowboys? And again, I continue to just scratch my head at how bad the defense is in Dallas this year. And it's not just 1 week anymore. It's multiple weeks where you watch the Dallas Cowboys play football, especially on the defensive side, and you have no idea what the game plan is or what they were hoping to do. You have elite talent with a guy like Micah Parsons, who's just 2 or 3 steps behind the play because you're not putting him in the best position to win the game for you and impact the passing game that your opponent is rolling out. And the other thing that I will continue to say, you made a mistake paying CeeDee Lamb. We saw it when they were at their worst at the end of the first half, CeeDee Lamb yelling and screaming at Dak Prescott, who, again, at the end of the day, helped you get back into this game. Dak Prescott, if he were your biggest problem, you would be a very good football team. The problem is in Dallas, Dak Prescott is not nearly the biggest problem for the Dallas Cowboys. In my opinion, it is defensive schematics, and Mike Zimmer's got to adjust. The defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys has got to find a way to take the talent that is there, because there's more than enough, and you've got to find a way to impact the quarterback, which you are not currently doing. And the other thing I want to point out here is, after the game, where you got run over by King Henry, which should be really frustrating if you're a Cowboy fan, Jerry Jones again, because the owner in every city does a press conference after every game, right? Jerry Jones after the game said, we didn't sign Henry because we didn't have the money. Well, maybe if you hadn't have paid CeeDee Lamb, Jake, you'd have the money for a power running back who could help you burn the clock and make your passing game better.
Yeah, and maybe if you hadn't waited so long to sign Dak and added, another 10 mil on every single year of that extension you signed him to, maybe you'd have more money. And I think it's not only a money issue. I think it's a scheme issue, and I think it's a pride issue. I think this locker room, with all due respect, is full of guys who want to get paid and who want to be, the top dog. And I think that somehow the Cowboys are still dealing with this issue in their room. And I think that's where, a lot of times good football teams are chopped off at the knees, if you will, because it's great that you have all this talent and you're the Dallas Cowboys and it's Jerry World and everything's amazing. But if you go out there and you play like individuals and not as a team on defense, you're not going to be a good defense. And so yesterday watching this game, I'm just like, man, dude, like at some point you guys got to come together on defense and play the scheme the right way. And I do agree. Mike Zimmer's got to do a better job of where to put Micah and, based on down and distance and situation in the game and all those factors that, every DC is going to take into account. But ultimately, this Cowboys team every single year underachieves and does not reach their goals because they have a bunch of guys who are just out here trying to play for money and not out here playing as a team. And that is, and it's pervasive, whether it's the wide receiver room with Des Bryant all those years ago, now CeeDee Lamb, or it's the defensive side. We see it throughout this entire roster, and that's got to change if they want to win.
And I'll just go back to the point of 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss. You are not impacting the opponent's quarterback. And to get run all over and not be able to run and to get a really strong performance out of Dak Prescott, I will just die on the Dak Prescott hill as I seemingly do every week on this show. He's not the problem in Dallas, which is also what I'm going to say about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
Deshaun Watson's not the problem in Cleveland. That offensive line is absolutely decimated with injuries. And I don't know what you do to fix their injury problems on offense. Your running game, your offensive line, like all you have is Deshaun Watson. And all you have, like you look at some of the numbers out of the game yesterday with the Cleveland Browns. And Browns fans should rightly be frustrated. To lose to a not very good at all New York Giant club and to rush for 69 yards and Jerome Ford and Foreman and Watson, and you couldn't run the ball. And it's because your offensive line was terrible. And somebody's got to get Amari Cooper, who finally led your team in receiving by a lot, not to drop critical passes that hit you in the hands when you're trying to help Deshaun Watson feel better about himself.
Right. When
he's running for his life. And the New York Giants defense, I agree, is elite. 8 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Are you out of your mind?
Well, and I think what's so painful about this game is like, obviously if you didn't watch it, you don't even really need to have watched it to understand what took place here. Like you look at the box score, you understand, okay, the Giants didn't score in the second half. You didn't lose this game by 30 points. Like you didn't get blown out. You lost this game because Deshaun doesn't have enough time because of the offensive line to get the ball down the field. And so it's this whole thing where you don't even feel bad that the Giants were like, this isn't a thing where like the Giants were just so much better. Or like, hey, they just were better. That's not what this was. And that's what I think, specifically when it comes to Deshaun and, the Browns in this situation, like everyone wants to talk about Deshaun's contract and what not got quietly negotiated and what didn't. And like, hey, what's that situation? But what you really should be talking about is can Kevin Stefanski figure out this offensive line? Because that is their key. If the even if it can just get like marginally improved to a point where
17. Well, first of all, 17 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
You're so decimated by injury on the offensive line. You're so decimated by injury at the running back. You signed Royce Freeman to your practice squad. How are you not? You've got to elevate him, right? Because you just there. Everybody in Cleveland, I understand, is upset about Deshaun Watson.
Right.
He's not what's wrong with this offense. And I know that is hot take guy or Deshaun Watson's not the problem. You're never going to get half of his best when he's hit 17 times in a game. You're not. It's Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Point to Dak Prescott. Like any of the places, Daniel Jones is just not a good quarterback. Deshaun Watson, I think, can be 75% of what he was at his best, not when he's getting hit 17 times.
And I don't think any quarterback is. And I think, I certainly am in like thought with everyone else that Deshaun is not the same guy, that he was as a Houston Texan. And I think, largely we should stop comparing him to who he was, because at that time, he was in his prime. He didn't have to worry about any of the off the field stuff. And frankly, he wasn't getting paid the money he's getting paid now. So there was no pressure for him to perform or doing it. He was just out there balling, doing his thing, telling us about XYZ banana in the post-game press conferences, and everything was kosher. But that's not the case anymore.
But it's this comment right here. If you're a Clevelander or a Browns fan, you've got to stop talking about Baker Mayfield. You got to stop talking about him. I understand why. I understand the controversy around the contract of Deshaun Watson. I understand the controversy about Deshaun off the field. But I also think you have to look at it from a football perspective and say this is not Deshaun Watson's fault. Has he been good? Not a lot. But at this point, comparing Deshaun to Baker Mayfield is a losing proposition.
But if you're a Browns fan, and I agree with that, if you're a Browns fan, though, are you not sitting here saying, well, if Baker had to leave the situation to find greener pastures, to be more successful, are you not sitting here concerned that, hey, maybe it is actually us as an organization right now? We're struggling to put together an on the field product that lets our quarterback be somewhat successful. Like in this game, look at what, as Giants fans have coined him, Danny Dimes did and didn't do, right? I mean, you're looking at a guy in Daniel Jones in this game.
Danny Dimes.
Who's 24 of 34 for 236 and only throwing for 6.9 yards an attempt. So he's not lighting up your defense. And again, I want to point out they didn't score in the second half. So the Browns struggle. It's easy to say, oh, well, it's Deshaun.
But didn't the Browns only score like 8
points?
8 points in the second half?
Third, 8 points in the fourth quarter. So yeah. I get it if you're a Browns fan, why maybe you want to point out the Baker thing, but I would agree it's not about Baker himself. It's about the fact that you signed this guy in Deshaun the way you did, only to have him come in and have a little bit more with this new lawsuit issues coming to light. And then from a football perspective, the offensive line just isn't there right now. They're just not good enough.
Yeah, it's tough.
So
it's tough.
I
don't know what you do with it. I don't know. It's the same thing I say about Cincinnati with Joe Burrow and that ownership. I don't know that it organizationally. We could go on it. I'm a Bears fan. Look at the Chicago Bears yesterday. Again, is Caleb Williams destined to fail? Because we're doing the same thing in Chicago that you're doing in Cleveland. Well, look at Justin Fields running all over the place and throwing it all over the place in Pittsburgh. He had to get out of Chicago and go to Pittsburgh to be successful. And then I look at the Caleb Williams performance yesterday, and it was undeniably terrible. But how many times are you going to get hit as a rookie quarterback and expect to have any kind of success on plays?
Right.
I'm designed to do this on this play. Oh my God, here comes a defensive end and a linebacker and a corner that stepped up, and
because my offensive line isn't talented enough to hold those guys back for 2 more seconds.
And it's because the Bears, and I'm not saying that this is the same old Chicago Bears. The Bears decided to go and get weaponry for Caleb Williams.
Right.
Instead of shoring up the offensive line. And I understand why you did that. And I thought it's a very interesting comparison between Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams. Anthony Richardson is not a good NFL quarterback. He is Avery Johnson 2.0, right? He's that guy that runs too much because he can't throw. And you're looking at him throwing interceptions in the triple coverage. And
right.
Caleb Williams is actually a really talented quarterback who just is running for his life. And again, I go to the quarterback hit number. He only got hit 3 times. He got sacked once, and he was running for his life all day.
Yeah.
And Caleb Williams is an inaccurate, quick quarterback in that he's trying to get rid of the football too fast, but his head is down because of the pass rush. So a lot of times he holds the ball too long, and then that forces him to make really bad, inaccurate throws.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest differences between the Bears and, like the Browns we were just talking about, is that at least with the Bears, you can see, okay, Caleb is doing the right things initially, but he throws that bad interception there on the goal line that essentially ended the game for them yesterday. because he's constantly under pressure.
And excuse me, Colts had 4 sacks and 6 quarterback hits.
So, I mean, you're still taking, maybe
you're getting
like,
in the NFL. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 2 of those hits that he took were body blows. And it's concerning.
So I agree that I think that the Bears and Ebersucks, as we affectionately call him, at some point, you're going to have to change this. And my hope is that, because I don't think they're going to fire him. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, obviously.
I don't know about that.
But I think that if they can get in the draft this coming after the season's over, next draft, get some offensive line talent, shore that up a little bit, I think you're going to see a lot of gains.
I think the fact that he completed 63% of his passes yesterday, 363 yards, 2 scores, and 2 touchdowns, or 2 interceptions
on 52 attempts.
That's asking a lot of him with no offensive line. And the offensive line of the Chicago Bears is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. At least in a place like Cleveland, you invested in your offensive line. You have guys, like Teller and Bitonio that, okay, they're hurt. Your offense, you're playing your 3s at this point.
Right.
In Chicago, you're playing your 1s, and they're terrible. And you've got to invest and shore up. There's no other way around it. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch. Best team in the NFL is who? I think that's a really difficult question to answer.
I think that when it comes down to it, I'm still going to say it's the Chiefs. I'm not convinced after last night, but it's not the Cowboys. Everyone's on the Vikings bandwagon right now because, Brian Flores has them running Tampa 2 out of, 10 guys on the line. So everyone's all excited about them, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're the best team in the league. And the 49ers, I wasn't thrilled with what I saw out of them yesterday. So,
you allowed that to happen to you in San Francisco yesterday.
Yeah.
Can we just we don't have time. The Chiefs piss me off. I just think that is such an average ass football team with an elite quarterback and a washed up tight end. And they should be better than they are, but you've got to recycle some of that talent now.
Yeah, you do.
I think the best team in the AFC is probably, what the hell was that, Houston?
I'm telling you, that defense is legit. In Brian Flores has those dudes cooking.
I want to say that Houston. I can't. I mean, Pittsburgh, if Justin Fields is going to play this way, Pittsburgh's the best team in the AFC.
I think a lot of people will tell you the Jets are the best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I need to see it for more than 1 week.
Yeah.
I need to see it for more than 1 week.
Right.
And that's going to be tough because their schedule
the Ravens.
is...
How about the Ravens? I mean, we know what's going on in Dallas, but still they won the game.
I look at Baltimore, and I just don't know that they're going to score enough points to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Because when you start getting into the meat of the schedule, I think that's difficult. But what I know is that the Jets have a lot of, their ceiling's very high. I think Baltimore's ceiling may be what we saw yesterday.
Right.
And it took a really bad defense to let that happen. So I need to see more, but if you were leaning on me right now, I think Pittsburgh is going to be really difficult to deal with. And I think in the NFC, I think we have real questions now to ask about what on earth is going on in Philly.
100%.
What is Jalen Hurts doing?
I think you got to start asking, does Sirianni make it through the season? I mean, I think there's a legit, and I agree. Saquon saved them. That was a hell of a run.
How do you
save them?
If you don't get, that was tough to watch. That game was boring as hell.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts where did my guy go? And I look at the interception he threw, and I just don't understand what we're doing with Jalen Hurts like that. So I certainly can't say Philadelphia. I don't know in the NFC.
I don't think there is a best team in the league right now. That's the problem, because the best team candidates are all sputtering.
I don't know how San Francisco gave that game away yesterday. To lose back-to-back games like that. And now it's Patriots, Cardinals at the Seahawks, and the Seahawks, Seattle is always going to be that team. I think Seattle's good. That defense is good. I think they're going to be tough. They dominated the Dolphins. I get it. But they dominated the Dolphins. They beat a really good Patriots team defense. They're putting up numbers that I'm a little surprised about. And Geno, as much as I have questioned Geno Smith, the guy continues to perform. And now you have to ask yourself, will they be able to run the ball enough to win big games? And if they're able to run the ball well enough, I'm still a huge DK Metcalf fan. I'm a big believer in Noah Fant still. I know I'm the only one. Metcalf, Lockett, and Fant is enough to win if you can run the football. So I don't think we know.
Yeah.
And now we got this double dip on Monday Night Football tonight, which absolutely your money should be on the Bills to cover the 5.5.
Certainly.
And I love the Bengals tonight. I think Joe Burrow has to have a bounce back game against the Commanders.
I think that's got trap game written all over it.
Well, it's at Paycor, so I feel like that's a win for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
If it was on the road,
I hope so. And I'm a Joe Burrow guy. I am. I'm sad to see the dude struggling this year, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington found a way.
Yeah, I agree. There's Big Daddy Magic. Hey, playa, it's beloved Buffalo Bills, best team in the NFL.
Sure.
This homie sends me videos every day, and he's like, if Victor was the quarterback, he'd be better than Josh Allen.
Whatever.
Guy wouldn't be on the field, dude. Legit.
No, he'd be dead if he was a football player.
Yeah. Like,
can we just start the basketball? I'm ready for basketball. I'm ready. I want conference schedules in college football. I want big matchups in the NFL, and I need the NBA.
Yeah.
I need the NBA. I need the Bulls to suck so that we can move on from Billy Donovan. They won't, because they don't. Which is fine. I'll just suffer at that.
Yeah.
The Monty Show is always presented by The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. You get hurt at work today? Yes. They do workman's comp. They do. And you have so much to worry about. Hand that all to The Advocates so you can get back to the best version of yourself. Chat with an injury attorney live online 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a time at theadvocates.com. Big Pac-12 Inside Story tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.